You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now. I do not know, but we've
Alrighty. How's our sound?
How's our sound, everyone, as usual? We always
We're back to our shitty mic system. But we needed it because we had multiple mics.
We had multiple people, yeah.
But yeah, can you guys hear us?
How's the sound, my friends? Please throw it in the chat.
Let us know. Let us know if you guys could hear us. It sounds like a little, I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds fuzzy.
But it's all right. Just go do the job. So yeah, we're live at the Finney Forum in Dallas, Texas.
Loud and clear. All right, thank you, Justin.
We got the whole crew together.
I know, I'm here. Hi, guys.
Right now, nobody's out here because Seth is giving a talk, SethForPrivacy. And so everybody's in listening to that, which is understandable. So we're in
perfect time to do the price report.
Yeah, perfect time to do the price report. Talk's always thinking, always figuring things out. Great to see you, by the way, man.
Yeah,
in person. It's been a while.
A penguin guy. Surprised I'm not really a penguin.
Talk a little closer to the.
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Tux, what's your take on Finney Forum so far?
It's been great. It's been great. It's cool to see. There's a decent amount of people. Not a huge conference, but it's interesting to see like some more Bitcoin people and Monero people at the same conference, which I don't think historically has really been the case.
Yeah.
It's usually been pretty separated.
Yep.
So that's been interesting to see like a lot of different types of projects related to Bitcoin and Monero.
Yeah. I'd say it's a as you'd expect, a nice group of people, right? All freedom loving people, all I would imagine philosophically aligned in some way. Hanging out here, figuring out how to do Bitcoin privately and or use Monero. So it's a good environment to be around. Met a lot of cool people that I haven't already met at Monero conferences. So it's interesting in that respect too, kind of like allowing us to branch out and meet people. A lot of people actually, I was surprised already. They know about Monero talk and stuff, which is awesome. Like we met a lot of people who said they discovered Monero through our podcast. So super excited about that. That means we must be doing something right?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons I discovered Monero. I was Monero Talk and then SethForPrivacy and had like the most resources to like learn about Monero at the time.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I'd say the Bitcoin people here are probably more of the like what you consider the OG Bitcoiners that wanted to see Bitcoin go into this direction of what it was supposed to be, this peer-to-peer digital cash that was sovereign that you could just use, but unfortunately that's not quite what's happened. And so there's now like a seen necessity for Monero to fulfill that original mission.
Exactly. You want to let's get this guy on real quick before we do price report, because he's just an example of one of the cool dudes I met here at Finney Forum.
What's up? Oh, where am I? Oh, right there.
He could give us our cameras right there. Do we have a mic for him? We'll just use this mic. You want to quickly introduce yourself and give us your take on Finney Forum?
What's up? Hey, I'm Vince. Thanks. Yeah. It's great. It's it's boutique. But the people are really cool. Like it's weird. I don't know. I feel like I know like half the people now. Here's the thing. I have a Bitcoin meetup where I live. I hope they're not watching this. It's the most boring meetup on the planet. So I've already had fun in the first 5 minutes here than I had that entire meetup. I'm kidding everyone at that meetup. Not. So yeah. Hey, I met Doug. I met what was your name?
Tux.
Just met him now. What was your name?
Sunita.
Sunita, what's up?
And what's like kind of you're more a Bitcoin guy, Monero guy? What's your standing there? Why are you here? Why Finney Forum?
Yeah, so my wife's pregnant. That's actually true. This is like my bachelor party. Just kidding. No, she's pregnant. So we just found out. So I have like one final week before I'm stuck for 18 years. No, I'm just kidding. I just came out here because I don't know. I'm interested in all this stuff like everyone else is. I've checked out Monerotopia. Looks awesome. This is like the very cheaper version. This is like the subdued version. So this is more like getting my feet wet in it. So yeah, like what am I into, Bitcoin or Monero? Well, glad you asked. Forever, I was wondering, I was like, why is there not, if you're an Apple user, and tell me to stop shilling my stuff whenever you want, but I would be looking, I'd be like, why is there not a Bitcoin halving countdown like widget? Like if you look on the App Store, there's no such thing as a Bitcoin halving widget. Like, you just kind of check it. It's the world's biggest event that's coming up. Obviously, like the actual date, probably nothing's going to happen. It's not like you're going to hear like a noise when it happens, but it's like an exciting countdown. So, yeah, for years, I like went to coding schools. I went to this one coding school for like 4 months. Complete disaster. The teacher quit on the first week. And I had like upended my entire life. I sold everything. I sold some of my grandpa's gold to go to it. Jeez. And the point of this is I tried to learn how to code. Nothing worked. I used ChatGPT and I made this app like within 2 weeks. And all it is a Bitcoin halving countdown app, and it's the cutest app ever. If you want to look it up, it's on the App Store. It's just called Bitcoin halving. Like 5 people have copied it since then. So mine's just called Bitcoin halving, not the other stuff that they add to it. And yeah. And don't even worry if you don't download it.
we won't hold it against you if you don't download it.
Yeah. But yeah,
Very
thanks
cool,
for
man.
having me.
And then yesterday you mentioned that it was nice to hear that you purchased a Monero Nodo.
I did.
That's awesome. How did you discover the Nodo? Just curious.
I think this is gonna sound creepy. I think I was looking at your Twitter. I think I was just like scrolling. Like I always like try to see who's in the Monero community, like what they're doing, because like like if you like try to look up like what to do with Monero, it's like, all right, what do I do? So it's like, all right, what's the big people doing? And I saw that you and is it Abdullah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys are making the Nodo, and I was like, I have a Bitcoin node. So I was like, oh, and I tried to do a Monero node of my own, and it was so much work. So I was like, so bought that. Very excited about that. Cool. And you showed me the cool preview, and it actually it's real. It actually looks really cool. So yeah, that's kind of how I kind of fell into it.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for letting me crash. I'm an idiot. You guys are too generous to have me on here. But hi everyone. All right, you guys take care. Nice meeting you guys.
Meet you.
Right. Thank you, man. Well, he's an example of one of the many nice individuals we met here. Hey, you're from around town, by the way?
I'm from Sacramento.
Oh, you're from Sacramento. Okay.
No, that's a bit of ways.
Okay, so not that much.
Not that close.
but a lot of great people around here for sure.
Yeah, there'll be more people
Texas
going in here like in half an hour. So
we'll have more people. I guess in the meantime we could do
chill. Wanted to come
we'll do price report, and then it'll be bustling over here, and we'll get lots of different people to jump on stage live over here.
Fully jokingly.
So let's do it.
All right, let's go to the price report.
Guys, like and share as always. We're at 60 live viewers right now.
Is that the true about this time?
I think that's a very accurate amount.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
We'll
get up to the thousands today. 2,000s maybe.
We'll have to check the Twitter numbers.
All right, let's go to the price report. Let's do this. The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Local Monero. Avoid using KYC exchanges. Buy and sell Monero directly for fiat, peer-to-peer. Aloha.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Bawdy, what's going on, man?
Bawdy.
Just chilling. How is everyone?
Good.
Day 2 of Finney Forum. It's been a nice scene. Right now, Seth is talking. So I think actually Finney Forum is streaming live too. So I assume some people are tuning into that right now, which is very cool.
Okay.
But yeah, things are good, man.
What's Seth talking about?
We don't know.
It just said SethForPrivacy. It didn't have a topic, so no one.
I assume it's
probably
It's a
foundation.
surprise.
privacy related.
Hopefully.
Right.
I don't know if he's presenting on foundation or if he's just doing his own talk, but yeah. But we've run into a lot of the familiar faces from Monero, so it's been really cool. We all went out to dinner last night. That was amazing.
Yes.
It's been really nice.
Wallet,
yeah.
So that was really awesome.
Yep.
How you doing, man? How's price looking these days?
Oh, it's just chilling. You can see Monero's price right here. It's basically flat. Doing the same thing that we did before the run up started. Got a few new things to show you guys. Let's see. On YouTube, it says we got 24 watching, but we only got 2 likes. Smash that like, guys. I'm not going to tell you what price is going to do until we get like at least 2 more likes. If you want mad gains, smash the like.
All right, do it.
All right.
I'm gonna
okay, so we got Monero.
Yeah, we can mute ourselves.
I'm gonna mute ourselves. Okay.
Oh man, we're gonna lose the soundtrack. Okay, so we got Monero's price here. Hasn't really done too much, right? We smashed to the downside, came back up to basically the bands here, the long term or sort of the medium, like the 2-year, 3-year standard deviation bands. So we're really just hanging out in there. At some point we're gonna break out of that. I think the fact that even the delisting down here failed to permanently bring us out of these bands, I think that's a really good sign that ultimately we will eventually smash to the upside. Who knows when that's going to happen, right? Sometimes organic adoption can move price significantly, and it could just happen without warning. So, and or perhaps, some big entity ends up with some need for Monero, or they want to try and accumulate more of their bags. In fact, with regards to big entities trying to accumulate Monero, it does seem like the pattern now here is for bear markets when everything is quiet and everyone's fearful and the hype is on. I think these big entities do try to accumulate Monero in the bear market when they can get it cheaper and without pumping the price, especially if there's people like that are sort of panic selling. And then during the bull markets, like the broad crypto bull markets, they sell Monero onto the market. They try and keep that price managed. My guess is that's what we've seen here. That's basically what happened over the past couple of years. And I can prove it. I can prove it. So let's take a look really quick here at the big chart. This is Monero versus Bitcoin. And you'll notice that basically we're this is still, so you can see we're making lower lows, right? We're continually making slightly lower lows. This is accumulation zone. From a technical analysis perspective, this is an accumulation zone. And the reason for that is there we go. Okay, so the reason for that is you've got the RSI down here, and you can see that the RSI, which is the purple, the yellow is like the moving average. I don't even know why I have the yellow on there. Let's actually just take that off. Let's make the purple yellow because it looks better. All right, hopefully you can see that. Oh, you know what? I almost forgot to zoom in. Okay, so I'm going to try and zoom in these charts. I feel like YouTube doesn't necessarily give us the best resolution, so hopefully this is slightly more visible. Effectively, what we've got here is the RSI is making higher lows, right? So on the XMR BTC chart, the RSI is in an uptrend, whereas the price is still technically in this downtrend. That's called bullish divergence, and in a technical sense, you would look at that and you would say, hey, that's a bullish signal, right? That's a bottoming signal. So the other reason that we might suspect that XMR BTC is in this accumulation zone is effectively this orange band here is a lifetime lower standard deviation. Technically, it's actually the geometric standard deviation for any of you math geniuses out there. What you do is you take the log of price, you calculate the standard deviation, and then you take the exponent of that result. And it gives you a different result. In fact, when you're dealing with exponential charts, you often take geometric means or a geometric average, and by, as a corollary, the geometric standard deviation. Anyways, if that doesn't make any sense to you, just trust me, bro. This is a lower standard deviation, and we're basically touching it. So we are in accumulation zone here. Not everything is perfectly rosy with the XMR BTC chart. However, Just from a technical analysis, you would look at this and say, yeah, that's accumulation territory. There is one more thing that I wanted to show you guys when I was like, hey, I can prove it that that Monero is basically anti-correlated to cryptocurrency bull markets. Right here, what we're looking at is a correlation analysis. So I'll show you guys how to do it, actually. For now, let's just get rid of the RSI. That's not important. So what we've got here is the XMR BTC chart. You know, we'll delete that as well, so I can show you how to do this. So if you like hotkeys, if you like quick keys, press the / button, and that will bring up your indicators and metrics. And what you can do is just type core for correlation. Hey, why won't it work? Correlation analysis. All right. So of course it's not going to work. That's really weird. Am I misspelling correlation? Is that what's going on here? All right. That's really weird. That shouldn't happen. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to undo. Man, I don't know why TradingView likes to do weird stuff sometimes. I'm sure I'm probably doing something wrong. Okay. Anyways, that should pop up there. I don't know why it wouldn't pop up. Like it always just pops up with correlation analysis. Technicals. Man, that's really weird. It should say correlation analysis down there. All right, whatever. This is a correlation analysis down here. It tells you how correlated price is to something else. So what you can do is you tell it, what do you want to look at? What do you want to correlate to? So it's taking this chart up here, which is the XMR BTC ratio, and it's dividing it by whatever you choose. So we're basically choosing the total cryptocurrency market cap, right? Because that's our biggest, like broad view into. God, nothing is working. Now it just disappeared. Hang on, we're gonna try one more thing. All right, that's why that wasn't working. Okay. No. All right, sorry to keep the show like slightly held up here. Anyways, this correlation analysis tells us when it's +1, it means that this chart up here is correlated positively with the asset on the bottom. So we're comparing against total. So when we're at a correlation of 1, that means that XMR BTC, our price relative to Bitcoin, that would mean that it's correlated positively. So if the market is going up, that means that XMR BTC is going up. But what you'll notice here is that we're on the negative side, right? Here's the 0 point, and we're on the negative side since, I mean, with a couple little blips here and there, effectively since August of last year, or sorry, August of 2022, right? So since August of 2022, for a year and a half now, Monero's price has been negatively correlated with the total cryptocurrency market cap, or I should say the Monero Bitcoin ratio has been negatively correlated with total crypto market cap. So, I mean, this is like your proof right here. This is effectively, it's in a chart, shows you exactly what I'm talking about, that during bear markets, Monero's relative price to Bitcoin performs better, and during bull markets, it performs worse. That's not an accident. It's done on purpose. It's done same reasons that the cabal suppresses the gold price. So, there's probably not too many charts that look like that. Maybe there's a couple. I haven't looked for them. So if any of you astute observers out there are looking at different charts, feel free to send them my way. If you see anything, if you find anything interesting. You can also look at the XMR market cap dominance, right? And this compares not just against Bitcoin, it compares against the entire market cap. And you'll notice that effectively we're in a bull market. We've been going down steadily, right? We've been dumping price here. It pisses me off. I'm not going to lie. It really pisses me off that that's how things are. But hey, I mean, it is what it is, right? Let's see. I didn't get around to publishing the divergences, the Monero price divergences for the different exchanges. One reason is that, well, I haven't had time, but the other reason is that I want to fix the volume calculation on this because a lot of the volume is done in USDT, right? Monero versus the USDT pair as opposed to USD. And I need to really include all of the different volumes that are in there. And so I'm not confident that I'm doing that, especially since the Binance delisting, right? A lot of that volume, allegedly, right? Not that I exactly trust the volume numbers, but allegedly a lot of that volume went to KuCoin and I think MEXC. Guys, I'm going to put a warning out here again. Do not fucking trade much, like hardly anything through MEXC. They are the new Binance. They will surprise KYC you. I had a friend, they did this too in the past week. They will surprise KYC you, and who knows if you get your money back. Do not use MEXC unless it's for very small amounts, okay? Like, y'all shouldn't be doing it anyways. I don't think probably many of you are, but please, for the love of God, for the love of your own funds, don't use that fucking exchange. Qcoin is slightly better. I've heard far fewer things about the negative things about them, but I've heard a lot of negative things about MEXC, and now, just like with Binance, now I have a personal friend that actually happened to. So don't use these guys. Bad scumbag pieces of shit. All right, that's enough for talking exchanges. And here's the XMR Ethereum ratio. Same story as the XMR BTC ratio, making lower lows on the price. The RSI is making higher lows. Let's see if fucking RSI will come up. All right, at least one indicator finally worked. Yeah, so you can see the RSI down here is making higher lows. And from a technical analysis perspective, this is Monero making a bottoming pattern. This is Monero in an accumulation zone. Now we have to temper that are we really in an accumulation zone? We have to temper that with the rest of our market analysis, right? Because you don't want to look at one isolated TA thing, Monero, against some charts and be like, all right, that's the answer. You need to look at the broad picture, right? So we need to look at the rest of the crypto market and really decide for ourselves, is this thing getting close to a top? Is there a massive bull run? Are we about to hit $500,000 price of Bitcoin? Are we even going to hit $100,000? Who knows, right? I'm seeing all the retard predictions come out of the woodwork again, and it's like, okay, listen, guys, and then I challenge them. I'm like, well, why do you think that? And they're like, well, we've been making higher highs and we broke new all-time highs, so $1 million Bitcoin. Like, if you get just like for the listeners out there, if you're going to make a price prediction, at least have like something behind it, like have a reason for the number that you're saying, especially if it's like some ridiculously outlandishly high number, like like $400,000, $500,000 Bitcoin, right? We've almost got a 10x to get there. I guess we need like to do a 6x or somewhere between like a 6x and a 9x to get to actually $500,000 is what we would need at this point, or to get to $400,000. So again, like you're doing a disservice to your friends and your family if you're just quoting them these massively ridiculously high prices and you have no reason for thinking that, like no specific reasons for that specific number. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the overall crypto market cap, we'll start with Bitcoin actually. So yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is still kind of doing this thing. You'll notice that we basically set new all-time highs. The tippity top would be like 74,000, just above, or sorry, almost 74,000. That little like attempt that I tried to draw the other day, last week on like a rising wedge, that looks like it's broken down, but honestly, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. These charts are still quite bullish. One thing that gives me pause here to think that we might be in for a little bit longer of a pullback than people would prefer is, let's go down to the 1 hour. It's the purple lines. We need to go down to the 1 hour so that you guys can see them better. Although I'm not sure how, I know sometimes like I check out the videos here and it's like, it's hard to see the wave magic line. So hopefully y'all can see that. Maybe zoom in one more notch here, a couple more notches. So one thing that happens, it's very common, I notice, when you get a breakout, you'll notice the very short-term purple bands come to the upside. You'll usually break it to the top side a little bit. They'll level off, sort of establish. You'll actually touch it or very closely touch it. And then at some point, you'll try to make another touch and you just won't be able to. You flatten out. You'll notice that like the blue bands, the short-term upper standard deviations, they start to flatten out. And then when that happens, you're usually in for some kind of pullback. So it wouldn't be unreasonable at this point to try and touch these lower purple bands here, or the lower standard deviation, kind of set some kind of floor, maybe even like a fake out wick to the bottom before continuing to the upside. So right now, I would look at this chart just from a TA perspective and say, hey, maybe this needs a cool off period before we really try to move any higher. Now, in a longer term sense, you'll see that this orange line that I've drawn here, it's basically kind of like a hand-drawn forecast of what we might expect these purple bands here to do. And again, I want to show you guys, these purple bands are formed from the previous all-time high action that happened at the end of 2021. So, right, these two tops, these purple bands are like, they're kind of like an exponential version of the moving standard deviation. They move much more quickly. They allow you to sort of capture exponential moves and have a way of analyzing them. I invented them actually because, believe it or not, the stock market is so exponential over the long term that upper standard deviations don't even work. The stock market almost always stays above the upper standard deviations. It'll kind of like bounce off of them. And every now and then, like we did for the past couple of years, it'll actually have some kind of bear market. But anyways, these purple bands have been very useful for me as a means of just kind of referencing what the market's doing. And shockingly, especially with new trends like this, they're often very, very accurate. I've been shocked at how accurate they can be sometimes. So the point is that where I'm really looking to a touch of these purple bands is where I'll be looking for a top. I'll probably be selling a lot of my altcoin positions. I'll be looking for some kind of reversal. Again, that's tentative, right? When we get there, I want to see what the rest of the macro situation looks like. I want to see like the totality of the markets, but that would be a target, right? Kind of like how these upper standard deviation levels for quite a while on the way up, I said, hey, these are my target. This is where I'll start getting nervous. And you'll notice that for about 3 months there, it was about 3 months where they actually did act as very good resistance until we actually started breaking out of them. So at this moment, I'll be looking at these bands as a target. I think that's a very, very natural target for the Bitcoin price. So for the meantime, though, I think there's probably a little bit of consolidation that might need to happen here. You can see it's sort of already happening. Has been happening for the past week. But I mean, the reality is Bitcoin price is still at $68,000, right? So that's pretty good, right? It's not really, that's hardly any consolidation at all. Let's take a look. Those of us that have been here for a long time remember that sometimes you go down 30 or 40% in a bear market before going back up. So if we were to go down 30 or 40% from the top here, right, that would put us at like 40 or 45,000. So it's just, this is just a pause here for the moment. I wouldn't say that this is enough for people to start getting nervous and say that, hey, it's, the run is over. It's probably not quite over. Let's take a look at the total crypto market cap, which I think is a little bit of a cleaner chart. And you can even see it in kind of the way that things really did a good job of just kind of obeying these, the sort of rising upper standard deviation lines. And then now again, I mean, same story as Bitcoin, right? Like the whole market, I mean, Bitcoin is half the market cap here anyways. So half of this chart is Bitcoin. But yeah, I mean, it's basically taking a pause here. It would be actually very bullish if this thing just stopped and things just started continuing up right here. It's difficult for me to believe that this is the bottom of this pullback. My guess is that the pullback has further to go. So that's total crypto market cap. I wanted to show y'all something, basically a fractal. I wanted to show you guys a fractal on the BTC price. So this is back in 2021. Let's see here. Okay, so you'll notice the dates down here. Like look at the bottom of the screen. You'll see that's 2021 from the summer, right when the summer crash happened, and then the run up all the way into the all-time high here at the end of 2021. So one thing you can do is go onto the left side and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things down. It's, I guess, let's see what it's called. The forecasting and measurement tools. Okay, so you'll go into these forecast and measurement tools, and this thing is called bars pattern. Now, I want y'all to be very, very, very careful with this indicator, and I don't want y'all to think that there's like fractals everywhere and that you're like finding the patterns in the code, right? Like Rain Man or or a Beautiful Mind or whatever. But what you can do, click that button, and then you'll choose some starting location, and then you'll choose an ending location, and you'll notice what happens here is you get the exact bars pattern. Okay, that's what this is. Now, I've already taken the liberty of moving that over because otherwise we'd have to slide and then slide, whatever. We're not going to do that. I've already moved it over here. And this is pretty dubious, right? This is always a dubious thing to do. Humans will find patterns that look like other patterns and say, hey, look at that pattern. There's actually a mathematical way to determine how closely matched a pattern is. I'm going to tell you right now that this is not a very closely matched pattern, but it is interesting. It has similar feels to someone out there laughing at doing things that are dubious. It does have kind of a similar feel. So one thing you'll notice, you can sort of stretch and expand this, right? So what we're going to do is expand this kind of into the top here. Maybe we don't like, maybe it's kind of arbitrary, right? It is a bit arbitrary to just say, okay, how much do you want to expand it or contract it? But there is a little bit of a similar feel here as there was to that last run up in 2021. So hypothetically, we could do something like this, right? We'll put the first peak there. We just peaked out at the all-time high. And then we'll sort of put that bottom peak down there. It's interesting. I just wanted to look at it. Like, I don't really have too much commentary on it. It does kind of feel similar, right? Your eyeballs will find this sort of, okay, you had this big run up, you had this pullback, and then kind of this violent move to the upside. And now we're having this pullback here. I'll be curious to watch this and see what happens. Again, guys, don't use this. Don't trade off this. Don't don't be like Charlie Day with the map behind you and like, oh my God, I've got the exact fractal pattern, and then say fractal everywhere because it's such a cool word to say. Right. There's just like one little thing to look at to be like, okay, maybe this is significant. Maybe there's something here. Okay, hypothetically, maybe we look at this and look towards the end of March here, somewhere around the $60,000 area to finish this sort of pullback, and then maybe try to make another run to the top side. Again, 80K is like a tentative target. Those purple lines are actually slightly above 80K, so will probably be more like 82K would be the place, like a very prominent place in my mind to be looking at. Bitcoin dominance is just chilling, right? It's not really doing anything. As I've said for kind of many months, I don't have any opinions on what this chart does or where it goes. Over the long term, so that in the short term, but over the long term, I have been expecting Ethereum to gain market cap parity. Now that Bitcoin has NFTs and BRC20s and all the degeneracy, it's like that's a place to squeeze some juice, right? That's a place to put people through the ringer and to make money. That's going to steal some of the Ethereum market cap that is allocated for those sort of things. Now, don't get me wrong. Doing all that on Bitcoin is retarded and and inefficient in every way possible. They have no dexes. They've got no stablecoin liquidity there that you can swap in and out of. BRC20 tokens don't actually do anything. Like if you say that Ethereum ERC20 tokens don't actually do anything, which is wrong, they do. But there's a lot of them that don't. Probably most of it doesn't do anything. But if that's true for Ethereum, that they don't do much, then like it's even more true for Bitcoin. They do even less on there. Nevertheless, it doesn't exactly matter, right? Like that doesn't matter. Remember, markets are irrational, but they're predictably irrational. So there's going to be some level of market cap stolen from Ethereum. It's going to be harder for Ethereum to gain market cap parity this cycle. I still think the probabilities are that it will, but I've had to adjust my probabilities ever since all that degeneracy hit the main chain on Bitcoin. I've had to adjust my sort of internal mental probabilities of that happening. I still think it's probably going to happen. It will probably be driven by the ETF, right? At some point, it'll become clear that the ETF will be approved. Probably it will be approved. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe they'll like do the whole court battle thing, where you've got to sue Gary Gensler again to be like, yo, you're arbitrary and capricious, bro. Please include the Ethereum ETF. And he's like rubbing his hands because he knows what he's doing. He always intended to approve the Bitcoin ETF. They always intended to do two separate ETFs where they did the futures ETF and then they did the real spot. They always intended to do that. It's maximum opportunity for maximum news hype cycle to take money off plebs, like to sell as much as they can at the top. Like he knows what he's doing. He's part of that game. He was at MIT talking about the goodness of crypto for years before he got into the position that he's in now. So he's an insider. He absolutely knows what he's doing. Okay, but in terms of the dominance here, I mean, listen, guys, if and when we see this dominance crash down to the bottom, maybe maybe it could even hit these lines down here. If we see altcoins make a major run, that's a big warning sign. That's a huge flashing warning sign if we see altcoins, because we've seen some nice moves in some altcoins. Some of them have significantly outperformed Bitcoin. Sol is one. I think Link and AVAX are still outperformers on Bitcoin from the bottom, from their local bottoms, although Bitcoin has equalized a lot. But the point is that if we see a broad altcoin run, I'm going to be looking at that and saying, maybe we're getting a little bit long in the tooth here, so to speak. Maybe this run needs some larger pullback, more than just like, a 10 or 20%. I really am at some point. Maybe it's a pipe dream at this point. Maybe it's a pipe dream and we're going to hit the upper boundary now before we hit the lower boundary. But I still would like to hit this lower boundary at some point, right? It could happen in September. It could happen at the end of 2025. But I would still like to hit somewhere around $25,000 to $30,000 on the Bitcoin price. One big final washout, one big, maybe a demand destroying event, a tail risk event. Crypto goes down when the rest of the market tanks. So I would still be looking for that. But the more that price goes up, right, the harder it is for me to hold out hope for that kind of washout. So, which again is like, that's as I've said so many times before, my strategy here since August was like, my balance of probabilities was down in August, but then I set some levels and said, if the market passes these levels, I'm going to have to get off of that bearish thesis. And I took insurance plays that should outperform, and they've done quite well for me. And I've still got a big stack just waiting to buy if we have a major crash. That's kind of been my that's kind of been like my playbook, my strategy. And I was talking with a friend about this in the past week or so, and he was kind of asking me, okay, well, what could we have done better, in the past year? Like what were mistakes you made and whatnot, and what do you see mistakes that I made? And I said, well, when the market did something I didn't expect, when it went the opposite direction that I was looking for, it told me, hey, I'm wrong about the markets right now. And he's, like, even though price crossed thresholds that forced me off of a bear thesis and really into a bull thesis, I wasn't willing to buy, because in my mind, it was like, okay, I'm wrong about the markets. And now for me to chase into markets when I was wrong about them in August, that would be like, that's a mistake, right? If I don't know what's going on and I don't have a good beat on the markets, why should I put money at risk? That seems to be just like a bad money management. I said, I've got these insurance plays; they should keep me good, and they have, which has been nice. But I definitely left some money on the table by not chasing the markets earlier last year. I'm comfortable with that. Everyone has to kind of decide their own personal strategy. I'm totally comfortable with that. To me, I like the Warren Buffett rule number one: don't lose money. Right? If you're going to trade these markets, your rule number one is don't lose money. When you lose and you lose big, it's hard to come back from that. You either have to wait a long time to get there, or you have to take bigger risk to get back. And taking bigger risk after losing money is how you lose even more money. So anyways, just a little bit of self-reflection there for you guys today on this lovely Saturday morning. Let's go ahead and close off with the macro. Not too much to talk about. I actually want to start with unemployment numbers and the inflation numbers, because we got new unemployment numbers before the show last week, and I just forgot to show them to you guys. So one thing with the unemployment that's really, this chart is going to become very prominent in my mind as the months go by. So if you guys remember, during the bear market, it was the CPI and the PPI numbers. That was like the headline thing that we were looking at, because that was going to guide when the Federal Reserve was done raising rates. And every time they were raising rates, the market took that pretty negatively. So we were looking for the forward guidance to end on the CPI numbers, the inflation numbers. Well, that hasn't mattered for a long time. And although we cover it, it's like, it's not that big a deal. And the Fed meetings also were a big deal at that time, but now they don't matter that much. They might start mattering if the Fed starts lowering or starts forward guiding us into the lowering moment. But the chart that's going to start becoming present in my mind to identify tail risk, and tail risk means that it's the edges of that bell curve. Like, it's a very, very low probability, but when it happens, it's like, you lose 40% in a month, which for crypto we're used to, but stocks aren't used to that, right? That only happens to stocks once a decade or once every couple decades. So the thing is that this unemployment chart has actually been correlated significantly with tail risk events. And once the unemployment starts climbing, usually it kind of runs away from you. So we'll take a little bit of a backwards look here. You'll notice here, 2006, right? The unemployment bottomed out, and then it jumped back up, and it's like, okay, whatever. That's just like a few ticks up, right? How do you know that this tick up isn't a big deal? It jumped up, it flattened out, and now we're looking at 2007. Now we're looking at December of 2007. And then 2008 starts, and this thing has already come up quite a significant amount, right? From basically from 4.3.5% all the way up to 5.1%. Now, these numbers are delayed by a month and a half, right? So every tick of these numbers that you get, you actually have to go forwards just a little bit, because we actually don't get, so for example, let me show you here. We didn't get the February 1st numbers, right? We didn't get the numbers for the unemployment for the month of, I actually don't know if this is for the month of February. I think it's for the month of January. We didn't get this number until like the first week of March. So we're delayed by like 5 or 6 weeks here. Anyways, the point is that as we go back, you'll notice, so here's the .com bubble. And then again, you'll notice at the very end of 2000, unemployment jumps up, and then it keeps jumping up all the way into like March and April of 2001. It was March and April of 2001 that the major crash really started happening. So the point is that when this chart starts to move up, and not just like one tick, it moves up, it holds, it moves up again, maybe it pulls back, and then it continues on going. That becomes a really ominous sign. Now, you'll notice here in 2021, that just smashed to the upside. There was no early warning signal here. Obviously, that was for the related events that we can't talk about because they'll censor us. But yeah, you didn't really have a chance to get out here on the unemployment numbers, but there was opportunity to get out in the bond market, which is another factor we're looking at for tail risk events. Anyways, this number has already started to climb. We can already see it's in an uptrend. If we see any major pumps to the upside, you'll know that we're probably within, let's just say, we'll say 1 to 6 months of some kind of major potential of high potential for crash. We'll look at bonds in a second. We did get new inflation numbers. The producer price index in blue bumped up. I mean, okay, this is nothing, right? It's just the same. Basically, we've hit the sticky part of inflation. They're going to have a hard time getting the CPI from 3% down to their 2% target. The core inflation is still slowly moving down. So right now, this is actually stability. That's fine. That's good. At least from the numbers that they report, even as screwed up as they are, like at least their screwed up numbers are looking okay. And inflation, like, I mean, let's be real, guys. Like, and this is something people need to understand. Inflation, just because the inflation numbers come down, that doesn't mean that the prices of anything is going to come down. Prices are never going lower, unless you get some like major, again, deflation tail risk event that just sticks around. Prices are never going lower for anything, but they're going to go up less quickly. So like people mentally are still readjusting for the new price of everything after the big inflation that hit. But lower inflation just means that that the number goes up less quickly in terms of like the stuff that you need to buy for living your life. But yeah, those numbers are never coming down. But so because sorry, I'll take another little moment here. On Twitter, I see, especially with the degenerate maximalists, they'll be like, "Oh, hyperinflation, and Bitcoin's going to 1 million or whatever," and yeah, well, the dollar's collapsing before our eyes. Look at the economy, and it's like, bro, like, can you still order shit off Amazon? Like, do you still have money? Is there still money circulating in the system? Are you still able to like buy electronics and go to the grocery store and get food? Are you really at want for anything? Like, is there anything that you can't actually get? It's like, no, the economy hasn't collapsed and inflation is not in hyperinflation. Yes, people are still kind of readjusting mentally to the new numbers. And yes, a lot of people are really struggling out there because people have taken on a lot of debt to keep up with the inflation that's happened. But we're not, like, this is not hyperinflation. This is not the collapse of the dollar. So anyways, but I mean, prices are high. I get it. Inflation is stabilizing, right? Over the course of the past year, we've seen inflation stabilize. Okay. Bonds here are another item that we look at that we're going to be keeping our eyeballs on regularly, because when we see violent moves in bonds, typically to the downside, when you see violent moves where bonds are starting to drop off and the Federal Reserve maybe starts lowering rates, that again is another major signal to us that we're getting close to some kind of tail risk event. And of course, when we start to see the yield curve inversion move back into positive territory and start moving towards the upside, those two simultaneous things, bonds falling off with the yield curve inversion coming back to normal, that is a huge sign for us that we're looking at tail risk event potential. Which for me, like, hey, bring it on, good tail risk event, whatever, Bitcoin crash, buy some, right? Maybe refill my bags a little bit in terms of the risk assets as they crash. For me, that's kind of a good thing. It's kind of a bad thing, obviously, in the sense that it screws a lot of things up, for other people. So I really don't want to cheer for that kind of thing, but that's really just like what the system produces naturally. Okay. Last few things. We're looking at the reverse repos here. This is cash that's being parked with the Federal Reserve overnight. You'll notice that this has been highly correlated with the bull market that we've seen. As money's come out of those reverse repos, it's gone into probably risk assets, stocks, and crypto. We still got about $400 billion left of this before we hit the 0 point. And hitting the 0 point is definitely a highlighting event in my mind. So yeah, you can see this is kind of like there's this curvature here where it's slowing down. So maybe they'll be able to stretch this all the way into the November election, maybe, so we can reelect Sleepy Uncle Joe. I guess when I say we, I don't obviously mean me. I don't vote. Fuck that. But anyways, yeah, who knows, right? We'll just keep an eye on that. Again, it's sort of like the synthesis of all the information we've just talked about over the past, say, 20 minutes. We're putting all that together. We're looking at all the different signs. We want to understand the total picture of the market. We want to put our TA in context with what the macro liquidity situation looks like across the globe for the United States. Right? You want to put all that together. No, you don't want to look at any one thing when you're trying to understand the markets. You don't want to get tunnel vision. Okay, this is Dixie. I don't even know why we look at this chart anymore. Okay, Dixie's flat. You can see, as we've talked about for months, this thing is volatility. It's collapsing volatility, right? Not collapsing price, collapsing volatility, right? So you'll notice that the highs and the lows are getting closer together, right? So at some point, this chart is going to break one way or the other. My guess, the break of this pattern here is going to be correlated with the results of running out of repos and potentially that tail risk event we're talking about. The reason that we keep talking about this tail risk event is because the pattern is abundantly clear. This raising of the interest rates, flat top of the interest rates, and then down on the bonds, that is a pattern that we have seen since forever when it comes to market crashes and tail risk events. It happened at the end of 2019. Well, it really happened for the years leading into 2019, but it happened at the end of 2019, just before the stuff that they tried to pull on us in 2020. It happened in 2008, really again 2006 2008. It happened for the .com. Like, this is the pattern that happened. So we keep talking about tail risk event because it's there. Like, the tail risk it exists, it's there, it's present. It's not particularly poignant at this exact moment, but in a broad context, in say like the 1 to 4 year time horizon, that this tail risk has existed since last year, and people have identified it, which is why you kind of have the people out there. You'll notice that there's people out there in the trading price world that have been talking about this for a long time, and they're like, "Oh, recession's coming, recession's coming." It's like, no, not quite, guys. It's just that this is a very long pattern, and it's hard for humans typically to be patient for the years-long time frame to be like, okay, it's coming, it's there. You know, we talk about it every week, and they're like, well, it hasn't happened, bro. I don't believe you anymore. It's like, well, no, this is a very long pattern. I want to hammer home how important this is for you, so that when you're not listening to me or someone else, that you can be watching this yourself and just prepare yourself. I even told my dad this past week, I said, yeah, markets are fine. Like, don't worry about it. But if we hit like a very sharp, higher probability of an immediate tail risk event, like in the near future, I'll let you know. And one thing, like, if you guys are on traditional markets, this is Monerotopia, so you're probably not. But if you are on traditional markets, one thing you can do is take like a far out of the money put on like the NASDAQ or some like highly correlated asset, like a far out of the money put that expires in like a year, right? Or 9 months or something. And then you might put like 0.5% of your net worth onto that, so that if some crazy shit goes down, right, that thing's going to go up a lot and you're going to protect a lot of your stack. And if it doesn't, right, if you're wrong, well, okay, 0.5%, you're not really going to miss that. The rest, and say the market keeps on rising, that shouldn't matter too much for you. So even something small as that can really protect you during those big risk off moments. And that way you don't have to keep a lot of cash on the sidelines either, right? Because otherwise, like, you have to be like, well, I think the market's done going up, I'm going to sell my stack. And then the market keeps going up. And you're like, well, shit, okay, I'm out of the market here. So that's one strategy that people can think about. Talk to your financial advisor. Give me a call. I'll be your financial advisor. I am your financial advisor, bro. No, I'm not. Please don't make that your takeaway from the show here. I'm drawing lines on a chart. Okay, guys, I think that's about it. Maybe we could take a look at the NASDAQ really quick. NASDAQ and S&P. So the NASDAQ is at the bottom of this channel. Technically, it's slightly broken down from this channel here on the daily close on Friday. Breaking down this channel wouldn't be good, but that doesn't mean that the game is over, right? But that would be kind of a little bit of a sign, right? Breaking down from this channel. The next stop would probably be this area here if we really did break down. The NASDAQ loves to break trend lines slightly and then can then come back into them. Like right here, down here, you can see like it broke for a single day, that trend line, and then came back up. I don't know why, but traditional markets really love that. Probably because traditional markets are more efficient than crypto markets. And I know that everyone is aghast that I just said that. But the reality is that traditional markets encompass a shitload more volume and players across the world, and money and accessibility in a lot of ways. Maybe I shouldn't say quite accessibility, but I mean, it just encompasses a lot of stuff. And for the past like 50 years, the name of the game has been find a signal in the market, mathematically prove it, exploit the signal, make money. And some entities out there have been very good at it. So the thing is that markets are not perfectly efficient. And this is why people are like, oh, you think you can beat the stock market? You think you can beat all of the people that, all of the brilliant genius mathematicians and physicists that run these trading firms? It's like, well, listen, there's a lot of signal in the market, and it can't all be found necessarily, like not all at once. So, like there's so much signal out there, and when these guys find signal, they exploit it. So that doesn't mean like they're not exploiting necessarily every signal that exists in the market. So yes, you might be able to beat the market if you can find a signal. So the point is here, though, that the traditional stock markets and TradFi, especially the ones that have lots of volume, those markets are significantly more efficient than crypto for the most part, because you have so many people in there looking at them. And when you get perfectly efficient markets, you lose any signals, you lose any patterns. But because markets are not efficient, and especially because they're manipulated to certain degrees, there is signal, there are patterns, they can be drawn out, and you can beat the markets. But you really do have to dedicate a lot of time and effort into doing so. You can't just like expect to, like if you're new to trading, you're the past 6 months or 12 months, you're like, hey, I'm going to trade. Like, don't expect that necessarily you're going to be able to beat the markets. Going straight out the bat. Like, I mean, my first year or so, like if you go to my old Reddit posts on like XMR Trader, you'll see me saying like some ridiculous shit. And you're like I was completely mistaken about a lot of things in the way that markets operated for a decent period of time there. And the markets taught me, right? Like losing money taught me what the markets really do, and being wrong about the markets teach you like, okay, you like how to adjust, how to adapt, what's really going on. And in a lot of ways, it was doing that sort of like really helped to break me free from the sort of little bit of maximalist mentality that I had when I got into Monero. Really, it was Bitcoin maximalish, I should say. I was never fully Bitcoin maximalist. Okay, so anyways, enough ranting on markets and stuff. Let's see, S&P is still kind of in this channel here, but it's on the lower side of the channel. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got for you guys today. That should be pretty comprehensive cover of everything that's going on. Hand the torch off back to Doug and Sunita. And Tux, right. Sorry, I'll leave Tux out.
Bawdy, thank you so much, man.
Hello.
So kind of, I know you hate when I do this, but kind of in short, because it was a little distracting for us over here. What do you see kind of happening in the immediate with regards to Bitcoin? Because it feels like it's just kind of sitting on a ledge or ready for its next takeoff. Obviously, that's the $1 million Bitcoin question, but what's your hunch with the direction things are headed next for Bitcoin as it sits on this ledge?
My incredibly scientific, mathematically, and also financial advisor perspective is that we've got some pullback here on Bitcoin into this area right here along this like purple line. So potentially, let's just say anywhere between 63 and 65,000. Probably for the next week or so, we're not going to see too much. Like, don't expect too much performance here out of Bitcoin. Don't expect too much performance out of the markets. One thing I would like to see happen is altcoins start to run where Bitcoin is kind of like hanging out here. You know what? Actually, I'm actually about to go off the edge here and just like start another rant. Short term, I think Bitcoin's got some consolidation and pullback for the next week until we talk again next week. And you'll have some occasionally altcoins here and there, right? Selected altcoins will pump here and there probably, but generally crypto needs to pull back.
And before we lose you too, any new insights with regards to the increased transaction count for Monero? It's been sustained now for, I guess, like 2 weeks. I think initially everybody just thought it was a blip and it would go back. Obviously, we don't know if it's a spam attack or it's organic usage, but I'm just curious if you have any new insights or thoughts with regards to the increased transaction count.
I don't think that I do. I was kind of trying to run some just like very napkin math here. Okay, so we started on March 4th. It's currently March 15th, so looks like about 11 days now, almost 2 weeks that we've been in the 100,000 area. If you look at the moment that Binance delisted, which is February 20th, we had 25,000 transactions. We bumped up immediately, basically, to 40,000. So let's just say 30,000. Let's say 30,000 was like our immediate post Binance. Like if you wanted to make the case for it's an attack, we would say 30,000 is the baseline level of transactions. And so someone's going to need about, I think it's like 9 times that much if you really want to totally unravel the train in a deterministic kind of way. So 9 times 30,000 would be 270,000 transactions. We got about halfway there to 140,000. So if this pulls back, like if we get any major pullbacks to like 80, 60,000 transactions, I'm going to have to take that as a sign that it's probably organic, that at least mostly organic. Here's another thing that might be the case. There's ransomware, there's hacks and attacks and whatnot. There's poisoned outputs probably from some of these dark nets. My guess is that if someone wanted to attack the Monero chain to de-anonymize it, they're probably targeting specific outputs, right? My guess is they would try to put extra transactions on the chain that would specifically target particular outputs. Maybe I got to think about that some more, and I really would need to like follow up with some of the guys that know the output selection algorithm better, like Ruck or someone like that. But if they could, I don't know if it's possible to try and target certain outputs, but they might be trying to target specific people and to try and keep track of certain outputs to track those guys down. They might not be necessarily trying to de-anonymize the entire chain. So again, it's one of those things like low threat model actors like us, like we don't have much to worry about. Like, okay, no one cares about coin cards. The department of whoever is not tracking your purchase of coin cards or anything like that. But if you're a high threat model actor, you might take some extra precautions here. You might tread very carefully. So if you're selling life-saving insulin in China on the dark web, be very careful about what you're doing.
Thanks for the warning.
All right, and yes, and let's bring on our guest, Bawdy. Thank you so much, man. Please stick around if you can.
Okay. I didn't hear what you said. Thanks, Bawdy.
You don't have
headphones. Max is just reading at this point.
Just laugh.
All right, we're gonna transition to our special guests for the week, which we have live because we're at the Finney Forum. Let's run the special guest segment to make it official.
Ooh,
fancy.
Right,
let's do it.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right.
Okay.
Leah, what's going on? Girl gone crypto.
Hanging out here in Dallas with you guys. It's been a fun weekend so far. Yeah.
It was great to see you in person. I've seen you online for many years now. You're like a well-known brand in the crypto world.
Well, and we even did a video together like years ago, and so it's great to finally, get to actually meet in person.
Yeah, when was that?
That was when you were running for Congress.
That was when I was running for Congress.
Yeah.
Cheers to that. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah, so we've known each other for a while, but we've never met in person.
Internet world,
Yeah.
Right.
So she's just as beautiful in person, guys.
Well, thank you.
Girl Gone Crypto, why are you here? Why are you at Finney Forum?
I thought that this event... Oh, thanks. Okay, yeah. I thought this event looked really interesting in the sense that it was like a little bit more like cypherpunk. It was a little bit more like privacy OG. I mean, just the name itself, Finney Forum, like, obviously doing a nod to how Finney is. Just in general, I was like, I think this might be a really cool crowd of people, even if it's not like this big blowout Denver level, like, size of event. And I'm like, I like that actually. I like the kind of more intimate, but it's been packed actually. There's so it's been really fun to see everyone engaging in the talks, and the talks have been really good, and kind of like a little bit more technical, like a little bit deeper than you would see at a normal conference too, which is actually really kind of refreshing as well. And just the conversations you're having, like everyone that's here is just kind of like really, you can tell there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot, so you can get into those kind of deeper conversations, which is really fun. So.
And I gotta ask you, what is your Monero story? Because I know, you're not, a thing or two about Monero. You're not just, one of these people who are just coming across it for the first time. I'm pretty sure you've been well aware of Monero for quite some time, and may even be a Monero proponent to some degree. Give us your Monero take and story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that like one of the things that initially really drew me to Bitcoin was this kind of alternative option from the fiat currency systems and from our really broken monetary policies and, everything. I mean, obviously we're seeing, we've got inflation, we've got, money printing, like all of these issues that we've all been aware of for a long time. It's like, it's really escalating quickly, here in the States, and like looking at, okay, what are alternative options that actually make sense? And then when you realize that, like, okay, so obviously I'm a big proponent of Bitcoin, as I think most of us probably are, but you're still missing that level of anonymity that you might want, and like understanding the importance of that. And I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people that are maybe newer to the space don't quite grasp yet, is that idea that it really matters, and that having options already set up before you need them actually matters, right? And so one of my favorite quotes, just in general about privacy, was it's from Edward Snowden. It's like saying that you don't care about privacy because you have nothing to hide. Is it's like that quote, right? And it's so true. Like people,
because you have nothing to hide is like saying you don't care about free speech because you have nothing to say, right?
Exactly, yeah. And I feel
very eloquently summed it up.
It really does, and I think that kind of gets people thinking when you put it in that perspective. They're like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything nefarious. I have nothing to hide. I'm like, well, I mean, look at what happened in Canada, right? Recently with like the truckers and like people that were just kind of loosely connected to that had their bank accounts frozen. Like, like that's scary.
Oh yeah.
Like
terrifying.
Absolutely. And so the fact that, I think people are starting to wake up to like, hey, if there is an actual option for these financial institutions and governments to have control over your money, then it's possible in the future that they will exercise that control. And so be like, okay, what other systems do I have? So I think just Monero in general just makes a lot of sense as something that you want to have in your tool belt, that you want to have, kind of ready to go and understand how it works. So
awesome. Yeah. No, so you mentioned like Finney Forum is a smaller conference, right? It feels a little bit more niche, maybe like the earlier days of Bitcoin conferences,
Totally.
like kind of like the Monerotopia conferences that feel. So do you think Monero is remains as a niche thing? Like obviously you get it, I get it, everybody here gets it, but do you think it goes beyond that? You're very well tapped into the mainstream of crypto, right? You have your crypto minute that thousands of people watch. You're very tapped in. Can you see it maybe go, leveling up in terms of mainstream starting to understand these things, or are people going to continue to kind of roll their eyes and be like, whatever, what's the next meme coin? How do I, 1,000x my money overnight? Privacy, schmivacy. I just want to make money.
If I'm being honest, more the latter, probably. But that's also because I think that this type of thing, there's a longer runway in terms of people understanding why it matters and why they might want to care.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that people do eventually kind of come around to that. But if they're just kind of a normal, like your everyday, like your friends that aren't, they're not thinking about that stuff, right? Like they don't really, if they don't have a reason to care, people generally won't care about something, right? And so I think that giving examples of other people that maybe had their accounts frozen or ran into issues with the banking system or, with government bodies and things like that, they might be like, oh, interesting, and then move on, because it doesn't actually impact them personally. And people by nature, I think, are just kind of selfish and are like, okay, next, what does impact me? Oh, that meme coin might 1,000x, that impacts me.
Yeah.
So I think that, people tend to kind of gravitate towards that. But ultimately, I think that we are seeing a shift in consciousness where people are being more aware of these topics. Like it used to be that, you'd mention quantitative easing and money printing years ago, and people would be like, well, what is that? Now everyone knows about it. It's just a common thing. Or like you would talk about inflation and people would, thank you, sorry, I'll keep the mic closer.
Yeah, we don't want to miss those words.
I'm tromboning it away constantly. So, and so I think that that's promising to me that, the conversation, for example, like let's say Bitcoin, it used to be, oh, but isn't that just for criminals? People don't really say that anymore. I think that people...
Now they say that about Monero. We've done it, guys.
We've made it. And so it is, I think, a little bit promising to see that the conversation's evolving, even if it's maybe not as quickly as we would hope. It's at least, I think, shifting in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. How about this bull market that we're seeing generally in crypto? do you think privacy becomes a part of it, or do the powers that be successfully kind of crush it? Because it feels like that's what's happening, right? We saw some major delistings with Monero, perfectly timed with when the bull market's about to take off. Other things that are kind of going on out there in terms of censoring and not allowing really the information to get out there. I feel like. Do you think they're successful in that regard, unfortunately, or do people start to pick up on the importance of privacy with this new influx of crypto users and crypto interests?
I think that it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle, absolutely, in the sense that like they are, the Binance delisting, that was a huge deal, and other delistings as well. That really is like a bit of it's a bummer. That's a bit of a step back in terms of people having easy access. But ultimately, I think that topics that matter find a way. Does that make sense? And so the people who really care about it and understand it,
the truth will prevail eventually.
I think it always does. I really do. And there might be some more ups and downs in the journey, as we go along with this, as they fight privacy. I mean, obviously they're starting to kind of come around to like, okay, maybe we'll accept you guys. Here's some ETFs. Here's this. But, I think that the attack on privacy is probably going to be very real. And it already is. But ultimately, I think that it prevails. Because, we're always so many steps ahead of them in terms of development and thinking of new ways. I mean, the level of understanding that they have of like how everything works, like we'll have new options that they haven't even thought of before. They're trying to still figure out what's happening way back here. And so I think that the people will find new solutions to work around whatever they're trying to kind of pull. And I think it all works out. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Obviously, we have the decentralized exchanges coming down the pipe. Obviously, some solutions already exist, but they're becoming more user friendly. Sarai DEX. I don't know if you're familiar with Sarai. That was presented, actually, Luke, I think, was presenting a full membership proofs, but he's also the creator of Sarai. People in the Monero community are extremely excited about that. That's going to be a way to essentially swap between Monero and some of the other major cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but through a decentralized exchange similar to Thorchain. So very excited about things like that will hopefully save the day. That's right. I think what we're all banking on. Last question, because I know you probably want to get back to interacting with people. Any chance we see you at Monerotopia in Buenos Aires?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I think that would be really fun. So
fantastic. Hope to see you there. Any information you want to get out there to our audience?
I just want to say thanks for having me on the show and inviting me to come be part of this live stream. It's been really fun to get to meet you guys in person and get to hang out. And you have such a strong community. And in general, the Monero community is just so wonderful. I really do love that. I feel like I always joke they're the last ones that are actually here for the tech, but it feels true. And it's just, I feel like it's a group of people that really get it. They really understand the importance of kind of more of the movement side of crypto, and that's really refreshing to be around that energy. And so I've just always loved the Monero community for that, and still really do. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Pleasure meeting you in person.
I know, you too.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
We had a great time last night.
Yes, I had a great time. Dinner was fun, you guys. We had a
really good time.
Yep.
Amazing desserts.
Oh my God.
I got a belly full of pecan pie right now. It was good.
It was really good. It was amazing. Awesome.
All right. We'll let you get back to your thing. Thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah,
really
of course.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Crypto, guys.
Yep. Awesome.
Bye.
Let's see who we find next.
Yeah, let's see who we pull over next.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
All right, guys.
Too close to the mic,
don't talk too close.
Yeah. They're like, you're too close. No, you are perfect. Yeah. It's always his case.
I'm always too loud.
It's like, hello.
All right, guys. Yeah, we'll
you want chill? We'll have chill. Chill's here.
Chill. Come on.
Chill, come on down. The next person.
Yeah, guys, we have a room filled with people.
Yeah,
now.
so don't. Hopefully the sound is good. Let us know. But
we're in between
trying our
talks.
best. Yeah.
We'll try to get Seth to
yeah,
jump up.
I'll go
but
get
I think
Seth.
a lot of people have his attention because he just gave a talk, so people are asking him questions. Chill, if you want to throw these on. And then you can use this mic over here.
And when you talk
Yep. There we go. What's going on? We're streaming live right now. Maybe do you want to jump on at some point? No. Okay. She's a true Monero girl.
Monero is the best.
You want coffee? She wants coffee. We've been making coffees. We brought Gratuitous coffee here. Anybody who watches the show obviously knows Gratuitous. Neil hooked us up with a couple of fresh bags that we brought to the conference.
Go, Neil.
We've been selling those. It's been great making coffee.
Yeah, don't forget to like the button, guys. All the
I feel
live
bad.
viewers
She
right
wants
now.
some coffee. Maybe I can make it as we do the show.
There's a lot going on here.
Chill. What's up?
Hey,
How's it going?
How's it going? How?
good. I'm having fun. We actually received tons
Yeah,
of
keep
compliments.
yours close, and I'll keep mine far.
Close. You gotta keep it close.
Tons of compliments as a space because we do smart contract audits and no other industry does this. So I'm so happy. I love compliments for the crypto space because we always get the,
Go.
oh no.
No,
Just
because
keep
we
it
can't
super
hear
close
you.
to your mouth. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we can't hear
Yeah,
you. We want the people to hear your
Jill,
beautiful
what's
voice.
your overall feel of Finney Forum? You've been at various Monero conferences, obviously Monerotopia. You've been at ETH Denver, I think, right? You go to the big ones. What's your take
It's
on Finney
very
Forum?
relaxing. The vibe, everybody's relaxed. Nothing went wrong. So
Unlike Monerotopia, that's part of the charm.
we were not in the US too. So
Yeah.
I think they did an amazing job. I love it.
Fantastic. And how about the vibe with kind of Bitcoin privacy people and Monero people? What's your take on that element there? Everybody's getting along. They have a family.
Yes. Everyone is nice. Everyone cares about privacy. I feel home.
Fantastic. You're jumping on a panel today, right?
Yes, and I also have a presentation after that.
Oh, you're doing a presentation.
Yes.
Okay. What's your presentation on?
So it's an overview.
Keep it nice and close. Yeah.
An overview of the current surveillance landscape and the solutions that I would like to be built.
Okay. What are some of the? Can you give us a little rundown?
No.
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 Okay.
You just have to wait.
We'll have to. Okay. All right. We got Luke.
Okay.
We got some heavy hitters. All right, Joe. We'll let these people
Yes.
jump on. I will see you on stage later for the Monero panel, which I'll be moderating, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Let me set them up and then I'll.
Who can we get to jump on here?
We got Luke and Justin. So
All right. Let's bring them on.
You guys want to sit over here? After you.
No, my bag's going to be unwieldy. I want to have the edge stand.
We're getting the heavy hitters.
I know. Here, you'll have the red one. And then you'll have
Put those
that
on
one.
so you can hear what's going on.
Here's the mic.
Oh, he's got no headphones. All right.
Oh, yeah.
It's all right. We're not listening to people on there anyway, I guess so, right? All right, are there mics live? Yeah, guys, talk nice and close to the mic.
Howdy.
Yeah, all right. You sound good. How you guys doing? Day 2. Finney
Great.
Forum.
It's going well. Great to be around
You guys
the,
got to talk closer to the mic, guys. Much love.
the ideologically aligned folk.
Justin, give a
Interact
quick
one-to-one.
intro of yourself, just to make sure that the people out there
Sure
know
thing.
who you are, who we're blessed to be next to right now.
Jay Berman on GitHub is my handle. I've been contributing to Monero past 2.5 years, working full time through the CCS, and been loving it. And these days I'm focused on working on the Surface update, working with Luke on full chain membership proof, the integration into the Surface library, and speeding up scanning. So those are the main things I've been focusing on as of late.
Minor things.
Fun stuff.
I mean that sarcastically. Luke, I feel like everybody knows you, Luke, but go ahead, give a little intro.
Hi, my name's Luke. Been sober for different meeting. But hi, my name's Luke. Yep. Developer in the ecosystem. Done a bunch of things over the years. Currently doing Sarai, a decentralized exchange, along with work on researching full chain membership proofs and taking notes on other research initiatives. I don't plan to go anywhere anytime soon, but I appreciate having more documentation and discussion on.
Wait. Explain that further. You don't plan on going anywhere soon. What were you saying?
Well, I mean, one of the sketches I did was theoretically for private smart contracts. We talked about this a bit while I was in ETH Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not expecting Monero to adopt that research anytime soon because I don't believe it's a good idea at this time. But I do appreciate doing the initial research and having it written down. That means if it ever does become something we want to do, we have the stepping point and we can evaluate why it's not something we want to do now versus we can't evaluate why because no one's done the initial research yet.
While I have you guys here, increased transaction count. What's your latest thoughts, takes on that? That's I think still very big relevant news for Monero. Transaction count took a bump up from like 20K average transactions to around 130K, and it's been sustained at that level now for about 2 weeks. I think it's still up at that level today. What are your insights coming from you guys? What are you guys thinking? Is it organic? Is it a spam attack? Is it an attack to unravel ring signatures? And any other thoughts you may have with regards to it?
First of all, it seems to, I mean, it's good to see that things have been relatively stable. So, I mean, as of now, it seems like a non-event for the time being, for right now. So it's chain is handling it smooth. So that's good. As far as thoughts on if it's a spam attack or organic or a flood, I'd say I feel like I generally lean pessimistic. So until I see like news of some sort of organic adoption or something that would suggest that, I generally lean on the pessimistic side that it would probably be something not organic. I mean, it was a quick spike, like that's sustained at a specific pace. All the transactions look alike, one in two outs. So I would.
Is it 1 and 2 outs though a typical transaction though, right? So
yeah,
it's coming back to you. And
it is the fairly typical transaction, but I don't know. I would also expect that
1 in 2 out typical, or is 1 in 2 out and then 2 in 2 out typical though?
Both are very common. So I mean, I would expect some. I haven't looked at the numbers on it, but I would expect more of a proportional, more 2 in 2 outs to be part of it.
Right,
And
that's what I'm saying. If it truly is uniform to 1 in 2 out transactions for this spike, it shouldn't be uniform to 1 in 2 out. It should be uniform to the expected ratio of 1 in 2 outs to 2 in 2 outs.
Okay, and we're not seeing that expected ratio.
Oh, I don't know. I was just questioning what.
No,
you were the one talking about how
it looks like it's mostly 1 in 2 outs when I would expect for there to be proportionally more 2 in 2 outs,
right,
and
so
other types.
Just
of
someone's making transactions with. That's just immediately sending all funds back to their address, which means the second output is just worth 0. Mm-hmm. It would be a sweep in Monero terms, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. I'm not used to calling it a sweep. I just call it a self-transfer. But yeah, that kind of suggests it's just one person sending coins to themselves or one entity.
Right, because they're doing the same behavior over and over again. Right. So Luke, is that your take then? I mean, any other insights that you might have with regards to this?
My offhand guess is most likely spam. I don't believe it's enough spam to be a notable attack on ring signatures, but I'm not an expert on this. I'm just saying I don't want to leap. I'm not saying it isn't an issue and it isn't a concern. It's because of topics like this I've been so advocating full chain membership proofs. But I don't want to leap ahead and say, oh, if this is a spam attack, it's almost certainly chain analysis trying to break Monero. I think it's likely to be a spam attack. I'm not going to say it is chain analysis or it isn't chain analysis. I believe for it to be likely to be chain analysis, we would have to see this over multiple months. And I don't believe it's been going on long enough for us to make that guess. But obviously, I would defer to Requiem for an actual statistical analysis of this.
All right. And you kind of touched on this briefly in your response, but do you guys think the network has handled it well? Are there insights there as to what other than full membership proofs, right? Which is something I feel like everybody's on board and excited for at this point, whether or not this quote unquote spam attack was happening. But are there other things that you're thinking like, wait, maybe we need to tweak this, or we weren't really ready for this? Were the wheels falling off in any regard? I mean, did we notice anything that needs to be fixed because of this increased transaction count?
I heard Cake had some issues with the nodes that they were running. Their nodes see a ton of traffic, which would, make sense. And I think they spun up some more instances. I believe is how that handle, and now things are relatively smooth. And also the pool has kind of decreased in size. There is an outstanding PR to the Monero repository that should help, that would enable more concurrent reads to the daemon. And so that's an outstanding PR that should definitely help in this situation when peak load happens. Things in the past, there were some things that have already been implemented in the daemon that I think it probably would have been worse had those not been in there already. So that's nice. But generally, I'd say that one PR I think should definitely help things quite a bit. But it seems that my personal daemon has been churning away, and it's been smooth to interact with as well. So so that's nice.
Right. So it's in the situation where you're like Cake and you have a node where you're serving a lot of people all at once, then we're seeing the issue, right? It's
yeah, exactly.
People with their individual nodes.
And I'll comment some more on that specific PR I was talking about. 0xFCC, I believe, is their GitHub handle, start of it. And the PR is to implement a reader's writer's lock, meaning that, let's say, transactions are being added to the database at once. What happens is the daemon will grab a lock, and then so while that lock is held, it can't serve other requests to, for example, read blocks. And so what would happen with a writer's lock also, let's say you have 100 requests come in to read blocks, the lock will hold and then is basically exclusively locking out other readers who want to read data from the daemon. So the writer's lock would enable as many concurrent readers at a time to read at the same time the same data. And then once blocks are added to the chain, that then grabs the lock that prevents anyone else from accessing the data. So that would be a nice improvement for the situation of having thousands of concurrent reads at a time. So that's
Bawdy. Just want to get Bawdy's question out here. He's saying, wouldn't you want to maximize the number of outputs at 16 if you were attacking? So saying, like, if this is an attack, why aren't they doing a
for a
large attack
for a flood and to actually affect ring signatures at the cheapest level? That would the ideal would be to maximize on the output side. So the other alternative here is a spam attack to try and bloat the chain to bump up the block size, and that's another avenue of potential attack that is in the realm of possibility. It's not the most efficient way to target rig signatures
if they're doing a flood attack, right? But you're saying the attack might be to just bloat the chain. Okay, Luke, I see any thoughts there?
Thought I want to comment publicly what the optimal way to attack the blockchain is.
Well, it's already known. Was asked in public information. Everything's out there.
It's all private people. Are we not allowed our privacy? Are we not allowed to privately know the best way to cause issues?
Well, would it be fair if only you knew how to attack the chain?
Well, if I could figure it out, you could figure it out.
That's not true.
You haven't spent several years learning how to code, program, and doing research?
Me? No. I don't have your brain, and few do.
Well, I don't want to say that everyone should have to be a 10-year experienced programmer and fundamentally inherit these concepts, so on and so on. That's obviously not what I want to say and what I do joke about. I do want to be clear. It is a personal belief of mine that anyone can decide to take that path. And if you today decide that you want to understand the Monero protocol on a mathematical level,
possible.
I believe you could do it. Don't close yourself off, man.
That is the beauty. I'm focusing on other things, but
I respect that.
Yeah. We all have our purposes.
But also, future proposal, we remove the wallet signing code, and you do have to use a pen and paper. So you will have to memorize the algorithms to sign a transaction.
I'm up for it.
It's the only way to keep your private key secure.
Another thought question here. I see people talking about layer 2, right? And now with what's going on, I kind of see that conversation coming up again. Any thoughts there? Does this have you guys thinking we may need a layer 2 at some point? Was that already your thinking? Or are you looking at this being like, no, Monero's fine, it's churning along, looks like it's doing well on chain. No reason to really even be thinking about those things yet. Or perhaps we need to think about them for other reasons.
For now, I'd say, I mean, research is always nice. I've generally been a proponent of continuing the avenue of the research that Serang did in the past. I'm forgetting who else was part of it. On DLSAG would be a cool concept to continue to explore for payment channels on Monero. That being said, I mean, the general L2. I mean, Lightning has had its own set of issues, and so that it's good to watch how that experiment is being played out over on the Bitcoin side. That, I mean, it's I think for now it seems that the L1 spot is a solid. We're in an okay position here, and I think the focus should be on things like full chain membership proofs and Seraphis and that upgrade, and that's where we could be going 100% in on at the moment, I would say.
All right.
So,
Luke, similar.
I do disagree a bit.
Surprise, surprise.
But I do agree that for now, the L1 is still working, and I don't think we need to immediately branch out to L2s. Practically with L2s, there's a few options. We could implement the DLSAG work, although we're going in the opposite direction. So I don't want to implement the DLSAG work. It's basically a more powerful time lock. Or no, it's a secondary script that can be executed after the time lock, right, Justin?
it had the dual link signature aggregation. So there was like a dual output in addition to the time lock, in which.
But one was only after the time lock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was basically be what you would need for payment channels on chain. So that was one option. We're kind of going the other way that extends what happens with the time lock. It's not just coins are available after the time lock, but coins are available with this key beforehand and with this key after, or similar. Very hand-wavy concept. I might have a few technical details wrong there. Sorry. It's been a while since I've reviewed DLSAG. But with Seraphis, we're looking at removing time locks entirely. So kind of just going in the opposite trend. Instead of adding more functionality around time locks. But are we not looking at doing that?
No, yeah, no, that is the case.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's also the outstanding proposal. There was the proposal to have hidden time locks as well and move to that with Seraphis as well. And just, yeah, I mean, I would say moving in. I mean, it's a general solution. So like you need both the time lock as well as the dual output. Right. So it's.
My note was just, instead of looking at adding more functionality to time locks, Seraphis is looking to just remove time locks entirely.
Yeah.
At this time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like a unique thing to Seraphis, as in like time locks could have been part of it. Mm-hmm. It was just removed as part of it. There's general discussion to get rid of time locks in
right.
Monero.
That's what I was trying to highlight. Sure. There are other things that could be done if we did want to adopt L2s. There have been some cryptographic time lock works. I will be honest and say I do not personally believe in them. To be clear, the cryptographic security of them may be fine, but it's basically if you have a computer, you can get sent a private key that you can't use. But if you spend like 2 hours of your CPU time, you keep your computer online, you run this program in the background, 2 hours later, you would get the private key. So that's what the idea of this kind of quote-unquote cryptographic time lock is. It's not a time lock implemented in Monero, so Monero doesn't know about it. It's still completely private, and larger cryptographic protocols, such as atomic swaps, would be able to use this. And with these cryptographic time locks, we can actually build payment channels on Monero once we have Seraphis. Right now, we're still missing something that Seraphis will introduce. I think practically they're going to have too many UX issues, because if it takes the best computer in the world 2 hours to break it, and it takes your computer 20 hours to break it, to solve for the time lock, to do all the math necessary to access the private key. In order to build a secure protocol, we have to assume that you can access the private key within 2 hours. So we have to only use the payment channel for 2 hours. But then when you finally, after 2 hours and the payment channel's expired, if there's an issue, you have to spend 20 hours gaining access to your coins. So personally, because of how the timing has to be done and with the variable power of computers and how CPU evaluations work and the possibility of building ASICs to steal from Monero payment channels, it's not something I consider practical. The other solutions would be to explicitly add functionality to Monero, whether it be transparent as necessary to support L2s, or whether it be a private smart contract solution, or even a private limited solution. Like Bitcoin doesn't have full programmability. It only has script, which is a subset of operations, or a very specific set of operations. Monero theoretically could have that, but there's a variety of privacy issues, and the private versions would be incredibly slow. The one other option would actually be to take a Sarai-esque approach to it, where theoretically Sarai has a, let's say, an economic derivative of Monero we call Sarai Monero, that presumably you can send Monero to Sarai and receive Sarai Monero, and presumably you can burn Sarai Monero and receive Monero. That's the entire premise of the decentralized exchange. But theoretically, one could fork Sarai and replace the decentralized exchange component with, say, the Ethereum virtual machine. So then you want to have the privacy of Monero, but you would be able to do transfers and programmability of Sarai Monero on this other chain. And then still, leave and exit the actual Monero layer 1. It just wouldn't be cryptographically secure. It wouldn't have the security of Monero, like Lightning has the security of Bitcoin. This would not have the security of Monero. It would have the economic security provided by validators who sufficiently stake.
That's like block stacks is their approach on the Bitcoin side.
I don't know about Blockstack for Bitcoin. I know build on Bob.
And then you were also referring to Paymo earlier. Paymo's time lock puzzles is that the protocol of the using cryptographic time puzzles to establish channels.
It just has I wouldn't be surprised if you're legitimately discussing anywhere from 100 to 10,000x for amount of time it's secure for, which is how long you can use it, and amount of time the average computer is going to have to spend to actually access the private key on failure.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you think we're pretty good right now in terms of on the base layer. Overall, though, do you guys have any concerns with regards to scalability on the base layer, given what we're seeing with the increased transaction count? We have full membership proofs coming up, which is going to make transactions larger, right? My understanding. In speaking with Francisco Cabanas, he feels pretty confident that we're good. That big Monero is built to scale on chain. Do you guys agree with that general premise, or do you look at things a little differently?
I think if you zoom out with a really wide lens and look at the pace of computing advancements, over the next 100 years, 50 to 100 years, I think it is probably within reason that the average, you think about our phones today and what the power of a phone can do versus what computers could do 40, 50 years ago. I think it's within the realm of reason to think that eventually, Visa scale on L1 is probably a possibility in the future. And then to get there, there are still caps on the block size on Monero's rate of growth. So it's like a contained direction is the general premise and goal with the current algorithm. And I think there's absolutely validity and merit to the approach. And I think it's an experiment that makes sense to continue with. And so that's generally my take on it.
Awesome.
I don't personally stand against Monero's dynamic scaling. It sounds like user transactions are still being sufficiently included on the Monero blockchain. So I won't say that the Monero blockchain isn't standing up to the issues, but I will say from a fundamental design perspective, I don't believe a homogeneous layer one is the best solution for scaling. I won't say that as the decades pass, there won't be a inflection point where, yeah, we can do Visa on our phones and it's not an issue. But I will say, like, right now, there are discussions like, is there a blockchain network that can do Visa now? And it's not because we want to have Visa's TPS 100 years from now, when there's even more humans, even more payments, and when humanity evolves with this concept of micropayments. And I'm not saying it will necessarily be guaranteed to so evolve, but I am saying as incredibly cheap and fast payment rails are designed, more and more apps are being built, which you're no longer doing efficient payments. Like, oh, like once a week we pay your revenue from all the people who streamed your song. But there's been discussions where even as a song is streamed, just immediately paying out that fraction of a penny or whatever. So I think transaction load is going to go up. I'm not saying there won't be an inflection point, but I will say if Monero was to actually be adopted by hundreds of millions of people, we wouldn't need these solutions in 100 years. We would need these solutions now. And personally, I don't believe any monolithic network is the proper design for that. And we should be looking at larger scaling solutions in our long-term design.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
I have a question for you, Justin, if you don't mind me asking. So I was standing over here. It's a little hard to hear what you're talking about, but I heard you talk about some locks in Monero D. And my understanding, because the stuff we were running into, was that P2P traffic was severely affecting the RPC response time, which I would think would be sort of separate things. But my understanding is that there's a lot of locks or mutexes going on between those two, which is preventing multi-threading, and probably to avoid some issues with that haven't been worked around yet. And I think I heard you talking about a solution, but is there anything immediately being looked into that?
That lock, I imagine, is likely. I mean, I don't know of anyone specifically investigating that particular edge of the issue. That the P2P portion is actually the root cause of the issue, and where exactly that caused the hiccup. I believe the reader's writer's lock would probably be it. It makes sense that is the source of. I would guess that is a sensible region to explore, and it absolutely is. But as far as diagnosing the specific issue of P2P traffic causing issue, no, I'm not sure if anyone is looking into that, which would be good.
Yeah, it seems everything's a little bit smoother now, but during the week of the surge, it was causing the RPC response times to be like consistently over 10 seconds. And our load balancer was like, it's unhealthy, so it wasn't serving any RPC traffic. So it caused a bit of a problem. And our node manager guy, Tanner, he had a hell of a time trying to like make everything work again. And it's good now. Everything's pretty smooth, but yeah, that was interesting to deal with. So
understood. That'd be definitely worth looking into.
We just need every single human on the planet to run 2 Monero nodes. One that does all of the peer-to-peer traffic and doesn't serve RPC requests, and then one which only peers with this other node to minimize its peer-to-peer traffic and then serves all RPC requests. And really, you should have a third server as well. So you're not using Monero's RPC, which has a few locks, but you should be downloading all of the data from Monero's RPC onto your own server, which has a more lock-free design. If you don't have a minimum of 3 servers, let's say 24 cores, 64 gigabytes of RAM, maybe running a node just isn't for you. And that's
Hey, well, one of the ways that it became a way faster was not by adding more cores, because we tried doing that first. We tried upgrading them to 2 to 4 cores. It wasn't taking advantage of the CPU power. However, that same plan that required us to go from 2 to 4, because we were using a high memory plan, went from 24 to 150 gigabytes. And LMDB is using all of it. So it's having to do very little IO operations because most of the blockchain is in RAM. So it's really fast, but that's a very unrealistic scenario.
Right. And obviously, if you're just talking about yourself or your family or a small friends group, or even potentially a medium-sized friends group, like even for this conference, I wouldn't be surprised if a single Monero node was fine. It's just obviously when we're discussing Cake with its however many large swaths of users, and all of the other people who are using its RPC nodes despite not being Cake users.
9 nodes now. 9 total.
Yeah.
Run your own
Guys,
node.
I don't want to
When you have
interrupt.
this level of discussion, you have this level of infrastructure.
I want to take the opportunity just to get Seth real quick because I know he's got to run, and he just gave his talk, and I don't want to miss him. Seth, get up here if you can. Appreciate it. He already had his backpack on. He was run up the door. So I don't know how she managed to pull him back in.
I'm not running away. I was running to another presentation.
Well, you're running away from us.
Yeah, from you. I mean, the conversation was a little
understandable.
too crazy. So, you know.
What's going on, man? Any thoughts on what you were listening in on all this? Anything that you were like these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about?
No, they do. I mean, I've been hanging out with the two Justins and Luke most of the weekend, so I've been talking about actually a lot of this already, just amongst ourselves, which has been fun. So, no, I think they hit the nail on the head. I love that we're discussing L2s for Monero. I think I definitely echo what the little bit of Luke's point that I caught, that even while we may not need an L2 today, the problem is if you never consider L2s, you're going to need them before you have them researched and ready.
Can I add one note real quick?
Of course.
Even if you think Lightning sucks, like even if you hate it, I don't believe it's anything but additive to Bitcoin, because it has the full security of Bitcoin. It's a more performant solution. And you can say, oh, well, we don't want users using Lightning. We want them on native Bitcoin. If they legitimately have the full security of Bitcoin, which I know with Lightning you can get into a bit of discussions on, but with layer 2s in general, if it truly has the full security of the underlying network, and for Monero, you would also have to argue full privacy, then it is solely additive. You can argue it's a worse experience, but that doesn't change you're getting more people involved. And
People have
still
ended up
using the same-
losing money through like forced closures on, like, people have stopped running Lightning nodes because they've ended up.
The big
losing
problem there,
money.
though, is it's like, I think Lightning gets more hate than is necessary, and I've spent a lot of time hating on it, because the core problem with Lightning is not necessarily a technological one, even though there are massive trade-offs that haven't been clearly discussed. But the big problem is that people were promised that they could run a node, manage channels, do all of this stuff easily without risks.
Mm-hmm.
And while obviously that exact sentence was not what was promised, that was the gist. So I think the majority of the problems that we've seen in Lightning are that people were promised this utopia of layer 2 that can do everything that Bitcoin can't, and it has no downsides. But in fact, what we're finally settling on is accepting the reality that the majority of people will not run their own node, manage their own channels, but using something where you run a node on a phone, you use an LSP, you use just-in-time channels, works really nicely.
Also, even if you just create a single channel to some hub, which is centralizing, but it's not an issue because it's still backed by the underlying decentralized Bitcoin, as long as you make 2 transactions with that hub, even if you have to do a forced closure, you're saving money and fees because you're doing 2 off-chain transactions, which would have been on-chain otherwise. And then the forced closure is just adding back one of those on-chain transactions. I'm sorry, Seth, I interrupted. I just wanted to.
No, that was a good point.
Vic is chiming in by this way and saying Lightning is coming to Cake Wallet. So for those that are pro Lightning, it will be on Cake Wallet.
And just to interrupt again before we ever give Seth a chance to speak, how's the weather today? What do you guys feel?
Not sure if the thunder's coming through the mic or not, but
Seth, based, we were having that whole discussion about scalability, right? We're talking about Lightning Network now. I know you gave talks on layer 2s for Monero, I guess it was a couple of years ago now.
way back in the day.
But what do you think about Monero's on-chain scalability? Like I was asking these guys, do you kind of fall in the Francisco camp, or are you less extreme in your belief in terms of Monero's ability to scale on-chain?
Yeah, I mean, I think Luke and Justin both did a great job hitting on it. I think the only thing I would add is that really, like they already harped on, but just this concept of, while Monero works well today at the scale that we have for Monero today, things could quickly get out of hand. We're already seeing just a tiny bit of that with this attack or usage, whatever's going on, in that some people are having trouble running nodes, some services are having trouble serving remote wallet users, those sorts of things. So I think the big thing for me is, while yes, layer 1 does need to scale, and things like dynamic block sizes, etc., help it to scale in the short term, they're not actual long-term scaling solutions. We cannot support, if you think Monero will be something that many, many millions of people will use, we cannot scale that at L1. It cannot happen. Bitcoin is having that problem. Obviously, they have other weird things with artificial block size limits, and there's different trade-offs there that they're making, obviously, but they're already hitting issues just because some people are putting JPEGs on chain they're understanding that suddenly, okay, we can't rely on the scaling techniques we thought we could. Now we need to branch out into other L2s because Lightning has some issues there as well. So I think the big thing for me is I love the approaches that have been taken in Monero to help scaling, but just like in many other projects, there can often be a case of kind of over-promising things as solutions. While they help the short term, or they help things like dynamic block sizes are fantastic for short-term scaling. Like if there's a massive rush on chain, they can handle them well, they can reduce fees, reduce the difficulty for users, and help things to come back down. They simply don't scale infinitely long term. So they're nice solutions, they're improvements over things like Bitcoin. I 100% agree, but you will need some sort of a layer 2 or other approaches that will help you to enable more people using Monero if you think it's going to get that big. It depends on exactly how much you think people are going to wake up to the need for something like Monero, but
hopefully though quite a few will wake up.
Also, quick comment on the dynamic block size algorithm in the first, like, let's say the entire world were suddenly to shift to Monero tomorrow. It's not like we would have multi-gigabyte blocks, and it doesn't work like that. So fees would drive up, would shoot up too on Monero. So like it's not like it can just immediately handle like the world.
You guys aren't using one Monero transaction fees? That's what I set my default to.
You're preparing for the future. I like it.
Yeah, like if everyone goes to it tomorrow, Justin's right, the block size is going to stay roughly the same. It will just continue going up. And while it's still the current size it is now, but we have 1 million times more users or whatever the number is, yeah, fees are going to get that much bigger. And if you aren't paying 1 Monero in transaction fees today to prepare yourself for that future, you just aren't embracing it. You don't want Monero to scale.
Thank you for your donation to my P2 pool miners.
You're welcome. I believe in Monero. I care.
Bawdy is asking, I tend to think ZK rollups is more in line with Monero's philosophy than optimistic based systems like LN or other rollup constructions. Any comments on ZK rollups as being a tool for creating layer 2?
So I saw earlier today someone who's working on Fedimints for Bitcoin. Fedimints are custodial, and I don't want to say that I recommend or endorse them. But the advantage of Fedimints, which are Chaumian eCash, right, Seth? Yeah. Is that they do allow private transfers. So that's one of the great things for them for Bitcoin, is that they're scalable and they have private transfers, despite in practice for Bitcoin, it's going to end up on a trusted multi-sig assumption. So I do think that with enough design, you could look at something like Cake Wallet has a payment hub, but instead of being a Chaumian eCash, Fedimint, whatever you want to call it, where they have all the coins, it's more like Lightning. Like everyone opens a quote-unquote payment channel to Cake. And I think the goal would be, instead of being transparent about who you're sending to and how the channels flow, I think the goal would be like almost a combination of Chaumian eCash and Lightning, where you can route all your payments through Cake. So Cake is handling the scalability. If there's an issue, you fall back to the layer 1 Monero, but Cake can't tell where it's routing payments. And I don't want to say any such designs exist at this time. I just want to say I don't want to rule out such designs. And I don't want to rule out the possibility of being able to say, yes, anyone can be a hub and anyone can privately route payments, but still with the security of Monero. And that would be kind of like Monero's version of Lightning. And I think that would be a valid solution. Like there are concerns it's centralizing. I won't say otherwise. But if you do get censored, you would just fall back to the L1. So I'm not here to say there's designs for that already. I'm not here to say it's feasible. I just don't want to completely rule out this Lightning-esque series of topics and discussions. Specifically with regard to ZK rollups, yeah, we would effectively need private smart contracts, or we would need smart contracts which aren't private. I don't believe transparent smart contracts are going to make them way in. I don't expect Monero to adopt a dedicated transparent ZK rollup section. Like we could do that. We could have private transfers here, and also in this second type of transaction, we just do ZK rollups. But that would require the Monero core team, quote unquote core team, that would require Monero developers in the Monero community and the node runners and all of the developers not only to agree on, but actually to implement some ZK rollup spec. And I don't see that happening. I just fundamentally don't see that happening, especially with a lot of the performance issues of ZK snarks. It's not that they can't be done. Obviously, they're being done with Ethereum. It's just they're still very computationally expensive. And all of the Ethereum ones are using it. I believe all of the Ethereum ones do use a trusted setup at some point in the process for performance. So we would have to do it without a trusted setup. And that, once again, is going to make it even more of a performance issue. And that's why this private smart contracts proposal, yeah, you get ZK rollups and you don't have any loss of privacy and all transactions look the same. And yeah, it just takes you 2 minutes to send your Monero. Like, I haven't actually done the benchmark, so I keep like throwing out various numbers, and every time I throw out numbers, they're going to change. But it legitimately would be hundreds to thousands of times more computationally expensive to create a transaction that's just a normal transfer if we move to this private smart contract design, because technically every single transfer would be a private smart contract. That's how we achieve indistinguishability. There's no difference.
Got any other thoughts on the ZK roll thing?
Yeah, I mean, Luke's the expert on the ZK rollup side, so I definitely trust what he's saying about that. I think I would just agree with the sentiment that like a limited scope Lightning network on Monero is still probably the best case layer 2. That idea of really embracing what Bitcoin Lightning has become, which is that end users do not manage tons of channels and open channels to lots of different channel partners. What they do is they run their own nodes so that they can handle their own routing, and then they use an LSP to open a channel to them, and then they have some short-term trust in the LSP, but as soon as channels are confirmed, they don't have to trust them. They can close their own channels when necessary. They can always settle back to the base layer, but they're able to use them as a hub so that they can almost always ensure that transactions can get routed properly. And like Luke said, I think there's a lot of people get scared of the idea of using central hubs in a Lightning-like network just because centralization bad. But as he mentioned, you're not giving up trust to those hubs. And if you do it the right way, you're also not giving up privacy. So you're really getting a massive UX improvement for very little sacrifice on the actual user trust and privacy perspective.
I was just going to note, if we did do cryptographic time locks for Lightning, then the forced close may actually be like, oh yeah, just rent a server for a few weeks to close your channel. Like, there are some UX trade-offs if the hub fails, but technically it would all still work out. So yeah, there's a lot of discussions, but I think in the next 5 years, we're much more likely to discuss a feasible Lightning-esque solution than a feasible ZK rollup solution. Because one, we can actually do with new cryptographic protocols, new applications, new user systems, new entities stepping up to take these roles. One of them just requires hard forking Monero in a discussion that will never end. Like I might propose private smart contracts 10 years from now. Like, I'm legitimately saying, yeah, when we have to go post quantum and redo all of our current work, yes, that's when we should look at private smart contracts. 10 years from now, when we're going post quantum.
I don't know if this show will still be running at that time. I'm going to guess
Doug,
yes.
you have to stick around.
Yes.
If you're not learning Monero, you need something to do. If you're not learning the protocol, you got to keep bringing the protocol to the people.
I will be here. I will be here. And hopefully all of you will be at Monero. You'll be at Monerotopia in Argentina, right?
I'll be there.
Yeah, awesome. Luke, I know you're
I'm a maybe.
You're a maybe.
But
okay.
Will we be at Monerotopia 2034? Will you, Justin?
It's a good
Are
question.
you ready to commit? Seth, how about you? I don't know. Can we get you down to Argentina?
I'll definitely leave it as a maybe, but it's not a no.
Okay.
It's a maybe. All right. Need to figure it out. It's at least like after all of the crazy conference season, so it's a little bit more spaced out, which is helpful.
I'd love to have you down there. And it's while BitConf is going on at the same time. I don't know if that's makes it an additional draw for you. But all right, guys, I'll let you guys go because I think we're going to kind of do this again on stage. Are you guys all going to be on that Monero panel?
Yep.
All right, so we're pretty much going to have the same conversation again
round 2
on stage, but it'll be more rushed and we'll only be able to do sound bites. So I'll see you guys then. I'll let you get anything else you guys want to throw out there?
Just a little thing.
Run your own node.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. Please do. It's not that hard. It's actually really simple most of the time. Not to show my own guide, but I do have a guide on doing it. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible. No, the only thing I'll just say is just this conference has kind of just reignited my love for Monero and the Monero community. I love getting together with all of you folks that I've known for years and been able to have conversations with, and just getting to chat with so many people who are like-minded is, I don't know, it's overwhelmingly refreshing. So I just encourage people to get out to things like this. I know it seems daunting to actually come in person to a conference, but getting out to things like this, getting out to Monerotopia later this year, there's nothing more important for you after you have realized the importance of Monero than actually getting into community that can help support you, that can help you learn privacy in other areas, that can help you learn self-sovereignty in other areas. It's really valuable. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, gentlemen. Any last words?
Run your own node. Please save cake. Don't do it for cake. Do it for their developers. They're running the entire blockchain in RAM. They're crying themselves to sleep at night. They're having nightmares about outages. Please run your own node. Not for cake, for their developers.
For you. Do it for you. Become sovereign.
All right, gentlemen. Greatly appreciate it. As always, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll let you guys go. Tux, you want to jump back out? We'll try to do, I guess we could do news. That was awesome, guys. Unexpected. I have all of you at once. That was very nice. Appreciate it. All right. That was overwhelming. In a good way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can attempt to do. Do you want to do news?
Yeah, I guess. If
Okay.
you want to do that, I just need to fix
See
it
what's
for
out
you.
It's gonna be a minute. Do we want to do? Do we want to do a viewers
Dev.
on?
No, but we also have
we
Dev.
got the dev.
Yeah, I want to do that first, actually.
All right, let's get the dev segment going. Guys, like and share, subscribe, do all that jazz. We have 435 live views. But that's if you take into account Twitter's counting system, which we will, because we like saying how many viewers we have.
It's very motivating.
It's very motivating.
You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
And now for the Monero development segment.
All right.
Hey.
How's it going, man?
Awesome. I really feel the vibe from your conference. It reminds me of the MoneroCon of last year.
Yes, definitely similar vibe. Although I think we had beers in our hands during that one, which was nice, and good beers, by the way. What's going on, man? Yeah, what do you got for us this week?
Yeah, so this time we have much more ongoing. So, I mean, last time, 2 weeks ago, there wasn't the spam attack. I call it like spam attack because I don't see any valid reasons for organic growth in this. But yeah, we have lots of dev updates this time. So I'm going to share my screen now. And let's see, right here we have a new release of the Monero software. So it's been more than 150 days since the last release, and now we have the official 0.2 release, and lots of things have changed. So let's have a look at this. So first, we have RISC-V support. RISC-V is a processor architecture, just like our ARM or Intel or AMD processors use x64. So this one is open source, and you don't have to pay licensing fees to use this processor architecture, but it's really a niche. It's still a niche, but it's nice to see that Monero supports this architecture as well. Then the daemon has received some bug fixes, which is really nice, and they disable ports on the I2P, which is a network protocol for anonymity. I haven't used it, but I think it's really interesting. It's an alternative to the Tor network. Then there was a bug fix that caused transactions to remain in the transaction pool. And I think this one is related to the high fees, the high transactions we are currently seeing. And we saw a really large takes pool in Monero. We haven't seen it this big, this large before. But if you are watching the transaction pool right now, it looks much better. And they fixed a slow RPC call for some edge cases, so that's good as well. And for the wallet, they fixed the set priority that is getting ignored during transfers. I'm not sure if this is related somehow to this fix, because if you wanted to do a Monero transaction with the fees set to auto, it didn't set the higher fee if the TX pool was large, but they fixed this and now the TX pool is cleared. So not sure which one of these was this fix, but yeah, now you can just use the auto setting in the Monero wallet again, and it will make sure your transaction will get mined quickly. Yes, and we see some updates to OpenSSL and RandomX. So RandomX had a bug that could lead to crashes on macOS with the new processors. So the next update is for the GUI wallet, and this has all the updates you saw from here, because the Monero CLI is integrated in the GUI wallet, but they have added support for the Trezor Wallet Safe 3. I guess that's a hardware wallet. I can't say anything about this, but yeah. And it fixed a crash on macOS, which happened quite often in my experience. So this is nice. And they've updated the Qt, which is the framework. I don't know what's the correct wording, but I would call it a framework in which the GUI is written. And they updated P2Pool, which is integrated into the GUI to version 3.10, which is the latest version. So we even can look at the repository, and I can see there is even a newer tag created, the 0.3 tag. It's not officially released yet, but expect a new release with the 0.3 version soon. So after those updates, Feather Wallet has received 2 updates, and the latest version is 2.6.5. And in the meantime, we saw they also fixed the fee adjustment. So even with Feather Wallet, you can now use I think you cannot set the fee manually in the wallet, Feather Wallet, but it's always automatic, and it's always choosing the correct fee right now. And I think this is funny. On the Windows version, they mitigated a false positive antivirus detection because they embedded the word kryptonite, and Windows always gets crazy when it reads words like kryptonite or randomX because it thinks it's a malware which is mining Monero. So, and they updated the integrated Tor client to the latest version, which is really nice. I really like that they always are really up to date, or even ahead of the official releases. I'm a big fan of Feather Wallet. I would always use Feather Wallet instead of the official GUI because I always had some weird issues with the GUI. Yes, they now allow restoring the legacy seeds. They call, I think they call legacy seeds the 25-word seeds from the official Monero wallet, because Feather Wallet uses poly seeds or shorter seeds. And you can even now restore seeds if you are missing the 25th checksum word, which is a nice addition. And what I really like, they added the option to remove failed transactions. This was driving me crazy. Sometimes I had a transaction that has failed to broadcast to the network for whatever reason, but then it was stuck in the wallet, and it was dangerous because if you right-click on it, you could always rebroadcast that transaction. And this is a problem because it failed, and then I did another transaction, and the other person received already the Monero. But if I would click on that failed transaction and rebroadcast it, they would get it twice. So finally, I could delete the failed transaction from the wallet, and I don't get into that risk anymore. So another update came out 16 minutes ago. So Monero is a wallet for Android. It's very minimal, and it goes in the direction of a hardware wallet with 2 parts. It has 2 different apps. It has Anon and Nero. Anon Nero is like an offline wallet, which one part is like the online part, and the other part is the offline part where you can sign transactions. Yes, and they released a new version, and it updates to version 0.3, so they are also ahead of the time. So now we're coming to a repository. It's called Monero Ecosystem, and the problem is it's no longer maintained. So all repositories inside here got archived just a few days ago. And this organization was run by Eric. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll just call him Eric. And I saw he has closed this whole project because he doesn't have enough time. He already announced it 3 years ago, and I don't think he found someone to take care of the project now. And yeah, every repository gets archived, and everybody who has had his project into this organization now has to move it back to his personal account. So it was really nice. It was there were different repositories inside this, mainly like Monero clients for different programming languages, like for Python and TypeScript, but also the Monero outreach docs were inside here, a guide for the GUI wallet, and yeah, some projects here. I hope to see they are still active in another place. Yeah, I mean, it's still public you can still look in this, but yeah, they won't get any updates. Sad to see, but yeah, that's how it is. So my friend Alex, called Alex Anako on X, he's a software developer and he has created something new. It's called XMR T3 Starter. It's a starter project which you can use to create your own Monero web application. And it uses a really modern technology stack like Next.js and the T3 stack with Tailwind, CSS, Shed, CNUI, and TRPC, and the TypeScript library Monero TypeScript. And you can easily start, like, clone this project and use it for your own project, like TipXMR, which is our project, which is based on the same tech stack. So yeah, you can look at the tech stack here. Software developers, they likely know most of these technologies. So really nice to see here the Monero Studio. Have an eye on this project. I think there might come more projects soon. So another thing is BISC 2. Like this is a decentralized exchange, and we saw it a long time in version 1, and now they released the second version, which is the successor of BISC 1. And let me show you what they changed. I think they changed quite a lot. So with BISC 1, you had to deposit some Bitcoin to trade. But now they introduced BISC Easy, which is a trading protocol which doesn't use any security deposits. And this is quite nice because you already had to have Bitcoin in order to use BISC, and this is bad for beginners who want to start with decentralized exchanges and don't have any Bitcoin yet. And they want to add more trading protocols like multisig or swaps between Lightning Bitcoin and mainnet Bitcoin, or liquid BTC. And they have their own protocol called BISC Lightning, which is between fiat. I don't know how this should work. But the most interesting is they want to support Monero swaps, so cross-chain atomic swaps between Bitcoin and Monero. But all of these things here are not ready yet. They only have their classic trading protocol between Bitcoin and fiat and Monero. And yeah, let's have a look at the next. So this project is new. It's called XMR Haystack. You can use this to look which of your transactions are used from on the blockchain from other transactions, like your outputs are going to be used as decoys, or your one-time addresses that are on the blockchain are used as decoys. And yeah, I haven't tried it, but you can connect a wallet and it will scan the blockchain and mark any of your addresses that are used in decoys, which is great for blockchain analysis companies. But yeah, you can use it yourself as well. Then there's a new release of Haveno. they mostly updated dependencies, and yeah, not sure when it's coming and getting a 0.1 release, but I think they are already pretty much advanced. They are still on the StageNet, but yeah. I'm excited for Havino. And I'm also excited for Seraphis. And yeah, you just had Luke Parker and yeah, on the stage. And here is you were talking about it, yeah. They updated a new draft in version 0.3 just 2 weeks ago. And I wish I could tell you what has updated, but I'm honest, I don't understand any of this. This is high-level mathematics and cryptographics. I don't understand this, and I'm sorry I cannot explain to you what this all means, but I'm excited for Seraphis. And the last update for today is about the Monero book from Cuprate. So they are documenting the whole Monero protocol inside a book, and we can jump into it and have a look at it's really nice to read about all the technical implementations of the protocol. I mean, it's also not too hard to read, I think. It's still a work in progress, but yeah, I really like that the Monero community is going in the educational field, and they show things like this book. So yeah, that was the dev report for this week.
Awesome. That was great. There was a lot, but I could see there's a lot of new Monero stuff and a lot of new Monero projects, and that was cool seeing that Seraphis paper. There's a lot of work being done on that, and then that XMR stack that you showed. That's interesting. I'm curious what that would be used for. But yeah, with that being said, I think we are going to get into the news. If I can switch over, and maybe Doug will come back over here. He's talking right now. But thanks for showing us all that stuff, Hundehausen.
Yes. See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And with that being said, I'm going to run the news segment.
And now for our weekly news segment.
All right. Let's see if we can share some of this news. I think Doug's coming back over.
Yep.
Whatever. We good?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
You're not talking. I don't know. All right. You want to kind of lead the show here, Tux, just because I can't really see things.
All right. Actually, I'm gonna switch to this one. This one's first. Yeah. So we got this tweet here. Breaking Biden's 2025 budget is very bullish on Bitcoin. Move the mic up there. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
The White House expects $250K by 2035. They're counting on it for their tax revenues. Yes, and of course we have like a community note here talking about that the White House budget doesn't actually contain Bitcoin price projections, but they're expecting to have a lot of revenue based on taxes and the regulation that they're going to be putting on crypto, which in turn I guess makes it bullish because they know that people are going to be using this, right?
Well, it shows, in my opinion, me being the Monero maxi I am, that the government is fully embracing Bitcoin because it's a perfectly taxable asset.
Yep.
And they're excited that it's going up in price because they're going to get their pound of flesh.
More money out of thin air, right?
Yep, they'll get their capital gains. Maybe eventually they'll get their unrealized capital gains. I've always been throwing that out there.
Yep.
I don't think it's that far fetched.
I could see that happening. Because I mean, these things by themselves shouldn't even have capital gains. They're currencies.
Yeah, I was having a discussion with some of the Bitcoin. I think they're samurai guys yesterday. It was over the meme of I lost my, Monero and a boating accident, and they don't really I don't know, they don't really like that concept or that idea. They think it's kind of BS. But for me, it kind of makes sense. The fact that you can't see how Monero has moved on chain adds security and adds plausible deniability. I'm not saying don't pay your taxes, guys, because nobody wants to end up in jail or to have to pay some crazy fines. And the U.S. government has a lot of resources.
Yep.
But there are advantages to having a tool that allows you to completely control your own money and in a way where nobody can see how you use it or if you even still have it. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Moving on. Next we got this tweet from the Zano project. They are launching their Zarganium hard fork, which is now just, well, I guess 0 days away. I guess it's already been done by now. It's already been done. We are glad to inform our community that Zano D/V C/, the tech that allows us to have assets on top of Zano, has recently been successfully audited by CipherStack, who is the company that develops Stack Wallet, an applied cryptography consultancy. And yeah, they do audits and they do some other stuff. The audit passed and no critical issues that require any action have been found. You can find the results of this audit together with the Zarganium code audit, which has already been done in 2021 here. CipherStack made a post about this audit on the Monero forum as well. Having received the positive results of this audit is the icing on the cake as we count down to the Zarganium hard fork, which is happened now.
Yeah. Why did they? Did you read the post at all? So it's okay. So in the midst of doing this audit, they were, I guess, essentially auditing CL/SAG in general, right?
Yep.
So it was a bonus for Monero. Monero benefiting from the research and development of Zarganium, and benefiting from the efforts that they're putting in by having further, essentially, audits going into an element of Monero. So that's nice to see. Other projects that in the ecosystem, their research and development budget going towards helping Monero. So it's nice to see that.
That is super cool to see.
Yeah.
And then next we got this tweet from Monero Mateo. Many Bitcoin miners will lobby for this. It's a barrier of entry for competitors. They will also bring EPA regulations. TX fees will become more expensive as a result. They already are expensive, which encourages third-party custody, who will also support this. Simple profit incentives, no CBDC necessary. And another tweet from this guy, Pierre Richard. Biden administration is proposing a 30% tax on electricity used by Bitcoin miners, even if you are off-grid using your own solar and wind generation. All of the reasons they provide are pretextual. The real reason is that they want to suppress Bitcoin and launch a CBDC.
So just, another example of the attack surface that Bitcoin has, this time not regarding its transparency, but the ability to see who all the miners are, which are just large companies at this point that are approachable, and the government will be creating more and more regulations and perhaps taxes that affect them, and you could expect that these corporations will be bending the knee because they want to exist as corporations, and in fact, perhaps potentially they benefit while they don't want to be paying these taxes. For them, they might see it as a barrier to entry for other companies to get involved in Bitcoin mining. So they might actually, in a way, benefit and welcome these taxes on electricity for those purposes. So in my mind, it's just kind of another example of the attack surfaces that Bitcoin has. And here it's the example of where the mining network and system can be essentially regulated and even taxed by the U.S. government.
It doesn't help that people have to use these $10,000 super power hungry ASICs just to mine Bitcoin. But tax on electricity is already like that's pretty crazy just because you're Bitcoin mining. But then
it's completely absurd.
It's absurd, and then they go further and off grid.
Right.
So you're not even using like the existing infrastructure that's been partially subsidized. You're using your own solar or whatever,
Right.
and they want to tax that.
Why would they want to punish the use of
Your own,
alternative energies?
Yeah.
Especially, Bitcoin has a tendency to try to seek out the cheapest energy possible, and lots of times it's energy that's being created in places where it can't be used for other things. So yeah, the whole premise doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
But Monero, just another example of a problem that Monero won't have. Right? If there ever was an implementation of tax on electricity for mining.
Well, I guess you just can't use a computer.
That's absurd as charging tax on everybody that's using a computer in their home.
I mean, there's like tons of ways that people like, even with Bitcoin mining, like there's tons of ways that the cost of that gets heavily subsidized by, we're using this to heat homes, especially people who live in the cold, or we're using this to we're using like certain ways to cool it down that would normally cost more. But yeah, this is just like going really, really, really far with just like control over this, and it's very specific to this.
We'll be seeing more and more of it.
Right, so next we got this video from, let's see if I can go back to the beginning here. Michael Saylor, Bawdyanarchist posted, "I've been saying that for 8 years, but these finance bros have poisoned the well of crypto."
Yeah.
And that's based on a fundamental misunderstanding about Bitcoin. People refer to it as currency or digital currency, and that's unfortunate historical artifact. That's unfortunate historical artifact.
Does it ever have to be a currency, or do you think it ever becomes a quote-unquote currency?
It doesn't have to be a currency. That's unfortunate historical artifact. And that's based on a fundamental misunderstanding about Bitcoin. People refer to it as currency or digital currency, and that's unfortunate.
All right, we keep playing it on lip. It's a little hard to hear, but
yeah, it's hard for us to hear it.
Michael Saylor is saying,
"Did you catch it?"
It's an unfortunate historical artifact to be calling a Bitcoin a currency. He doesn't see it having that use case. I don't know. I don't even know what to say here. He's completely lost the plot.
I mean, like from the beginning, this guy was obviously like a grifter. You're just trying to use it for money.
So Monero. Bitcoin is digital in the eyes of Michael Saylor. Bitcoin is digital property. It's the digital version of Manhattan. You can own a piece of the property. It's not meant to be currency. It's not meant to be peer-to-peer digital cash. It's just a store of value. It's digital energy. Which that just blows my mind. But this is the main spokesman essentially for Bitcoin at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate to see the direction that he's leading the technology there. But that's where Monero comes in, right, guys? So everything that he's saying, it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate historical artifact. Well, that's exactly what Monero is and wants to be and will continue to be.
All right, next we got this post from @BTC Gandalf. You check the on-chain flows and realize that the Bitcoin spot ETF providers now hold 95% of the Bitcoin supply. It's all held by just 3 custodians. BTC is now just numbers moving around in an Oracle database. Gary Gensler was right. On-chain analysis is dead.
Just another example, right? So it's essentially been completely co-opted at this point. Fiatized in a way. People aren't even holding their Bitcoin. They're just trading an ETF that represents Bitcoin. It's similar to like a gold ETF, right? It's just numbers on a screen at that point. They hold these powers that be, right, essentially hold all the Bitcoin, will eventually hold a vast majority of the Bitcoin, and people will just own a promise to that Bitcoin.
But I think the ETF has been kind of one of the nails in the coffin. Like, as you're saying, like they're just able to totally control the money supply of Bitcoin at this point.
That's an astounding.
That's
fact.
crazy. If that's
realize that the Bitcoin providers now hold 90%
Is that true?
I mean,
that seems a little bit. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of money in the ETFs already.
Yeah. I don't know. That might
There's a whole
that might
there's a
not
whole
be-
thread
that
here. It might not be
a-
completely true.
But that if
Um,
so, I mean, it's kind of it's ceased to exist. As to
There
what
is
it's
a
supposed to
whole thread here that you guys can take a look at and go through and see what he's all saying. Of course, we don't have time to read through all of it here. But I think the ETF is already. I mean, like the points are still valid.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much money Control has right now, the points of why you wouldn't want an ETF is still valid.
Yeah. Crazy.
And here's a tweet from you.
Oh, here's a tweet from me. What was that? Oh, this is with regards to the Roman.
Sterling Gov
case. He's been unfortunately been found guilty. But the good news is they will be appealing the decision. Those guys were here at the conference giving essentially an update on what went down, explaining everything to everybody. I'm going to try to maybe grab them today at some point to do a quick little Monero talk. But what we're learning is what we already know, that when you use Bitcoin, you're taking a very large risk in that you can be accused of a crime if that Bitcoin was ever implicated in any crime, even if you weren't the one who committed that crime necessarily.
Yeah.
When you use Bitcoin, it comes with the trail of past transactions, and if those past transactions were related to any criminal activity, you may be the one that catches the blame for that. And this is just, yet again, we talk about it all the time.
Well, the really scary thing about this case is that it wasn't even like definitive of them, like of their ability to trace Bitcoin in this case to prove that it was Roman Sterling Gov. They're just using the idea that Bitcoin's traceable to try and kind of make up this idea based on not enough corroborating evidence. It's very clear that it's not enough. From Tor talking yesterday, it wasn't really enough evidence, but they're giving him a guilty verdict anyway. And what this looks like, they may be trying to use one of this as like a really big case to set an example that can be used for future cases down the road. Exactly. It's a lot of like judge doesn't understand how any of this stuff works. A lot of the most jury probably has no idea either.
They didn't have any hard evidence. They didn't have his computer with evidence that showed that he was the one running the Bitcoin fog network. They didn't have any of that. All they had was a trail,
like a shared IP, like a VPN IP address, right?
Right.
That's like shared.
Well, they had a trail of past Bitcoin transactions that coincided with the purchase of the Bitcoin fog domain. Right?
Yep.
Which didn't necessarily mean that he was the one who purchased the domain, but that he held Bitcoin at some point that was involved in the purchase. That's really what they hung him on. And so, like I was saying before, I mean, what that really means is anytime you could be that sucker that's using Bitcoin that was previously used in a crime, and if the government's looking for a fall guy,
and you happen to be the one that your KYC'd, they might just be like, oh, that guy, that guy.
So it's a loss for Roman, and it's a win for chain analysis and the ability of government to use chain analysis to.
Well, I think it's mainly just a win because like CipherTrace, they had an expert opinion, that was not allowed to be presented because even CipherTrace, they were showing how it wasn't enough evidence to prove that it was Roman Sterling Gov that actually had that Bitcoin, actually made that purchase.
CipherTrace, another chain analysis company was criticized.
Yeah, they were criticizing
chain analysis, the company, for their means and methods, and I'm not really clear on the details of what happened there, but basically
it sounds like just a few days before there's something happened and suddenly they weren't allowed to have their witness come and give their expert opinion, which is something behind closed doors kind of thing, right?
Like which is pressure was on them for whatever reason.
Because they all get funded by the government.
Right.
Yeah. So
which is another big issue. All these guys that work for chain, it's kind of a revolving door between working for the government on the side of prosecuting, and then going to work for something like one of these chain analysis companies as their in-house attorney or whatever it may be.
All right, thank you, Bawdy. It was an expert testimony. I was saying opinion.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I heard from. Yeah, you're saying that for real they suppressed the CipherTrace testimony. Yeah, that's what it sounded like based on what Tor was saying yesterday. I think that speech will probably be up online because there's no reason that they would live stream it and not upload them later.
No, yeah, I think it'll be up, and I'll try to grab Tor today and maybe do like a quick little 20-minute Monero talk just to get the bottom of everything that's going on. But the real lesson here is that the government is misusing chain analysis, or is showing that they have the ability to misuse chain. You know, whether or not this guy is ultimately guilty, it's showing in a court of law, chain analysis will be used against you.
Even though the chain analysis itself is flawed, but then the way in which this case was done was like just so bad, so bad.
Yeah.
Because chain analysis already, like, yeah, Bitcoin is somewhat traceable, but chain analysis is still like on Bitcoin is like not always definitive. Like there's those black box, magic that's going on between chain analysis and CipherTrace. It's like
so
they've got these.
What is kind of the lesson there, guys? I think we all know it already.
Shum should have used Monero.
Should have used Monero. And the
well, unfortunately, when he had that was back in what, like 2013 though. That was before Monero.
Sure.
So we can give him a pass.
Yeah.
But nowadays, Monero really should just be. Everyone should speak.
What was the name of the firm that's owned by Visa that had this expert testimony? It's a
the CipherTrace.
CipherTrace. And so the other thing that came out of this is, I believe,
they're closing doors, right? I wonder if we have one of those. Do we have one of those tweets
days after all this happened? So it's all very.
There it is. I'll move to this one real quick.
Okay.
CipherTrace issues report critical of Fed's use of chain analysis and US v Sterling Gov. We just talked about that. Then Mastercard suddenly pulls it and shuts the whole tracing firm down. Not a coincidence. Don't dare question US attorneys or there is career retribution. Wow.
That's power, guys. That's
either that was the case or it was just because they weren't making enough money. But Scoop, the Mastercard owned CipherTrace informed clients that it is shutting down key blockchain analytics products. This comes just a month after Mastercard pulled an expert report from a CipherTrace director in the Bitcoin fog case due to data issues. Wow, this is from Fortune.com.
Mm-hmm.
So this is getting pretty out there.
And for those not familiar with CipherTrace, they are the firm that claim to be able to essentially trace Monero transactions.
But so far we haven't seen that.
Yeah,
we haven't seen that.
And they claim to have a tool that they were using for purposes of quote unquote tracing Monero or gaining insight into Monero.
Oh, they're blocking me from looking at this article. Oh well.
That was never proved to be the case. There's a famous interview of Justin Ernhofer grilling, right? I don't know if you've ever seen that, Tux, where Justin interviews somebody from CipherTrace.
I don't think I've seen that, no.
Gains insight into what they were suggesting the tool was that they had, and from that interview, what was gathered was that
it's like pretty much a black box,
they didn't
right?
have much of anything. They were just making probable.
I see. Which is the most you can do with Monero. Yep. As far as I know, the IRS bounty has never been claimed. Being able to deterministically trace Monero for like $600,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So
I'm sure now they would offer millions of dollars for that, but so far, no bites. All right, so last we've got video also after this. MicroStrategy announced for the second time in less than 2 weeks that it will sell convertible notes to buy more Bitcoin.
At the top, Michael Saylor, who says Bitcoin is not meant to be a peer-to-peer digital cash system, is doubling down or tripling down at this point. I don't even know. He's buying more Bitcoin. He's buying more digital property. So if you want to be a part of Michael Saylor land and own a piece of his digital property, you can buy some Bitcoin and hope that he never sells it.
Bitcoin's going to go to $3 billion. It's already at what? The market cap's already at like over $1.5 trillion, right?
Right.
It's like how much higher can it possibly go? All right.
All right.
I guess
I caught this video earlier this week. It was Peter Schiff debating with regards to Bitcoin, and I thought this is pretty good.
How many minutes to play?
I'm not sure if you start
couple?
here. Let me see.
Okay.
Yeah.
That adoption. It hasn't become any more of a currency than it was when it was first created.
That's a very fair thing. It hasn't, because the problem is it keeps going up, so you're disincentivized to sell it, or it's very volatile, right? It's not very good as a currency.
Well, it's not very good at the main thing it was designed for. But and I remember when I first heard about it, when I first heard about Bitcoin, the way it was told to me was, hey, you can circumvent all the AML requirements. You get out of the banking system. You can transact anonymously, in private. You don't have to worry about the government spying on you. You can be out of the banking system.
I got into it for an entirely different reason, which is, as Dan Tapiero would call it, it's the security truth machine. It's the value of the ledger.
So Peter Schiff being much more in the know than Micro Saylor, saying, I thought the original reason and use case for Bitcoin was the ability essentially to transact peer-to-peer anonymously and privately. And he's saying it's not even good for those purposes. It doesn't serve utility for those purposes. And this is where I've kind of always agreed with Peter Schiff, that he actually understands what Bitcoin was supposed to be. And that's why he's kind of in awe of the fact that it's, gain this much value when it doesn't really provide the base utility that it was meant to provide. It's become just a purely speculative asset without a base utility underneath it. And while he may be shunned from most in crypto, he appears to understand it better than Michael Saylor.
Yep. Or I think Saylor understands that he's just taking advantage. Selling stuff.
Digital property.
Yep.
And he wants you to buy a piece of it.
Most of these people, they all know. They know how all this works. Yeah. They're just making money off of it because they can.
But I often wonder what Peter Schiff would say about Monero, right? Because
it kind of fulfills.
It's like, well, actually, there is something that does do that, and it's called Monero. Do you think that has any value and utility?
All right. I think
that the news.
Yeah, I think that was it. That was pretty much it for the news, guys.
Wait, let's see if we get this gentleman up here real quick. We got Mike from Coin Cards. See if you can. I'll move down too. Jump down over here. So no viewers on stage. This will be our viewer on stage today. Let's run the viewers on stage segment.
All right.
We've already had our special guests.
Sorry guys. If we did regular viewers on stage, it would probably take way too long this time.
Yeah, we just don't have the time. We got to get back to the actual conference. So this will be our viewer on stage.
Yep. All right.
And he has been watching.
Viewers on stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
Oh, he needs headphones. That's all right. He can hear us.
You can hear? Okay.
All right, Mike, what's going on, man?
How's it going? Great to be here. Having lots of fun down here in Texas.
For those who don't know who you are, want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, I am the CEO and founder of CoinCards.com. We're based out of Vancouver, Canada, but we're accessible in Canada, US, the UK, and most recently Australia.
Fantastic. Yeah, Coin Cards. We talk about it all the time on this show. It's become a fantastic utility for Monero users and Bitcoin users, but we obviously this is Monero talk, right? So we are Monerotopia, so we're always talking about ways in which people can use their Monero. Coin Cards is a great way to do it. Granted, it's not a way to essentially buy goods or services directly with Monero, but it's a workaround way to use Monero for essentially almost anything. Where you could buy a gift card instantly with Monero with giving up very little personal information, and then you can use that gift card essentially on the spot to purchase whatever it is you want to purchase. So we're big fans of that here, and a big fan of Coin Cards in general for supporting the show, Monerotopia. I greatly appreciate all that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So Great work, man. I know coin cards has always been in your mind a kind of a bridge, right? A tool that's there for us to use in the meantime before we gain really real world mass adoption where people are directly accepting. How do you feel about that now these days? You still have that kind of same opinion?
That's still the same opinion. Coin cards is here to exist until we don't need to exist, and at which point mass adoption happens and everybody just takes Bitcoin and Monero natively, and we disappear into the sunset. We don't need to exist, and I'm okay with that because that means that cryptocurrency in general is winning.
Yeah, which is beautiful, right? So it's nice to have a guy like you running this company.
Yeah, 'cause it's literally your business that would basically be done, but you're still, you want that mission to be accomplished. You're just trying to help facilitate that in the meantime.
Exactly. I mean, we all win when cryptocurrency wins. So if we have to disappear, that's fine with us because we've completed our mission.
And before you do disappear, I think we're going to see a lot more usage because we're going to be in this, I feel like this sector of the adoption curve for quite some time, right? I don't think overnight everybody's going to be accepting Monero and Bitcoin natively. I think we're going to be here for some time, and I think while we do sit here, more and more people are going to start using things like coin cards.
Yeah, I think so. Originally, I mean, we're actually celebrating our 10th year this year. So originally when I started it, I was like, this is probably a 10-year business and I'll be out. And, I was hopeful cryptocurrency would take off overnight kind of thing. But I mean, now I'm like, we're probably going to be here at least another 10 years or so, probably more. But, we're always pushing for adoption and always trying to support events like Finney Forum and Monerotopia that, promote adoption and not just the Bitcoin maximalist hodl mentality, which I don't agree with, but some people do. But eventually everybody's going to need to cash out, and that's when we're going to be here.
When you need to, that's when you go to coin cards. And I'm assuming you're seeing an uptick right now, right, with the bull market.
Yeah, every bull market brings in a big crowd of people who want to cash out, at least maybe take some profit. And, I don't think anybody's dumping everything, but I think people, as the price goes up, they start to realize, okay, I want something fancy for my troubles here.
Yeah, right. It's meant to be a tool. It's money, guys. At the end of the day, you can keep it stored for your entire life, but that really wasn't the purpose. Right? The purpose is to use it, live off of it. So coin cards is a way to do that. Can you give us any insights into numbers, particularly like with Monero? I always love those tweets that you put out there and you show the usage.
Oh yeah,
Monero is always number 2 on the list.
Yeah, Monero's always number 2, except for last month where it was actually number 3.
Oh, okay.
USDC kind of took over, which was weird.
Jesus.
What's the point of that?
I don't know. But Monero has been pretty strong. I mean, always up in the high 20s. 20%, second only to Bitcoin for the majority. We're actually going to, at the request of the Ronin guys, we're going to do a yearly summary of 2023. So, that's kind of coming up. We'll probably launch or probably post that in the next couple of days and just kind of see what the yearly summary it was. Monero, though, I think is probably bigger in the US and the UK than it is, say, in Canada for us. So it's kind of weird that Canada's kind of, with all the stuff we have going on in Canada, that we're still a little reluctant to use Monero, but the rest of the world, I think, is
we got to
ready.
tap into that, man. You got to get the word out to
I'm trying.
We were talking about Canada yesterday. Oh
yeah.
My God. I mean, I've read the things, I've seen it on Twitter, but to hear it from a Canadian, you're like, no, it's real. It's as bad as...
Yeah, it's as bad as people think it is, and sometimes worse. I mean, Vancouver in general, like, we give out free drugs to people and we watch them overdose, and like, it's just, the government's just crazy at this point. And and then
you gave me some fact with what's like 12,000 people have.
Yeah, MAID is our medical assisted dying. We have probably the highest number of medically assisted suicides out of any civilized country, and then they're opening it up this year later to depressed people. So I mean, depression as a way to medically assisted suicide is kind of disgusting in my mind. get those people help. Don't just kill them off. But the government's crunched the numbers, and it's cheaper to kill people off than to help them.
Here's your free drug. And we're not talking about marijuana. Well, this is like hard drugs.
Yeah,
right?
like,
here's your free drugs, and here's your ability. If you want to kill yourself,
and
we'll do it for you free of charge.
It's crazy.
That's wild, guys. And so unfortunately, Canada seems to really be on the forefront of this.
Craziness.
You'll own nothing and be happy type of future.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially with housing too. We've got nobody can own a house in Canada anymore. It's insane.
So what do we got to do to get the word out on Monero as a tool for liberty? And I mean,
remind me. I see information that's like seems like go back and forth on it. But how hard is it right now to get Monero in Canada? Are you able to just go on any of these exchanges and buy it, or is it pretty regulated like it is in the US?
So I think the only exchange that has it open in Canada would be Kraken.
Okay, so also Kraken in that case.
So Kraken you can. Binance has been outlawed. I mean, they delisted Monero anyways, so screw them. But yeah, I think it's pretty much only Kraken and then peer-to-peer.
Wow. Okay.
And then we got the atomic swaps that Samurai's doing as well, so we can
sure
probably
you
tap
got
into
those
that.
methods, but in terms of like centralized exchanges for the noobs, it's just Kraken.
It's just Kraken at this point.
Okay. Which is the same in US. I mean, it's better than New York, right? So if there's any place that's worse than Canada, it's New York. Oh my God.
Sorry, New York.
You got to still pay for your hard drugs there. No, we're not there yet, but I don't know. I feel like it starts in Canada and then it comes down to New York City. So we'll probably be dealing with that soon too, which is quite depressing. But not depressing enough for me to use one of these services, guys. Don't worry,
No.
I'm here to stay. Any other info you want to get out there?
No,
community?
just let the community know that we're in Australia now.
Oh, another freedom-loving country.
Yeah.
you're trying. You're
trying.
putting the lifelines out there.
And I mean, Monero is picking up in Australia. The orders are coming through, and they're in Monero. And we're going to be expanding into the European zone within the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So,
next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So
how about South America?
That will be next. We'll kind of take a look and see.
Can you make that happen by Monerotopia in November?
We'll try. We'll try.
Can we get a commitment?
No.
We'll try.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
You put a ton of work into this. Obviously, you're doing an amazing job. So we greatly appreciate it because the Monero community is very much benefiting from the work you're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, we love the Monero community.
Yeah. You don't charge like astronomical fees or anything. It's like
actually in the US, UK, and Australia, we've cut all of our fees, so it's 100% just face value now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry, I didn't realize that.
I know. I totally forgot about that too. It's so new that I forgot.
In some instances, you kind of can save money buying the coin cards, no? Or is it like?
It's all face value.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all market rate though, so we don't bump up any of our rates.
Right. So you pretty much anything you want to buy with Monero, you could do it through coin cards.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
For people to clearly understand that. And once again, in terms of the information that people have to provide, it's just an email, right?
So email and a name.
Right. Email and a name.
Yeah, and that's it.
Right.
You don't have to register for an account, so you don't need to keep a password. That's totally optional. If you want your order history, then you do have to register for an account, but otherwise, no account needed. Just a name and an email.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
Have a good day, guys.
That was sweet, as always. Appreciate it. Thanks,
All right. Yeah, thanks for coming on. All right. So, anything else?
No, I think we'll wrap it up with that, so we could go back to the conference, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. This is great. We had.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go do the Monero panel, and I feel like we already did it. I hope it doesn't suck because we kind of talked about everything already. I'm not one who likes to rehash things that was just said, but we're going to go do that. I'm sure it'll be great. It'll be fun. Guys, you can tune into Finney Forum. They are streaming it all live on Twitter. So anybody that wants to
go
check
and
out
watch.
the talks.
There's a few more talks happening today.
If they're recorded or it's just live, or
it's live. I think they will be up at some point. I can't imagine them live streaming it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it is. Well, where it's going to be though.
Yeah.
I imagine they'll put it up on YouTube.
Yeah. So tune into the Monero one, which we're going to be doing in about a half hour from now, or even less. So 1:30?
150.
150.
Oh, 150.
Okay.
We got a little more time.
50 minutes from now, guys, tune in on the Finney Forum Twitter. We'll be doing a Monero panel. It should be super cool. Obviously, we kind of hashed out a lot of things here. I'll talk to Tux. Maybe come up with some different topics to bring up on stage. Thanks, guys. Do these shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Tune in, subscribe, share it with your friends, get the word out. We have 545 live viewers.
Yeah, guys.
Hey, the numbers are the
545.
numbers. We love Twitter and how they change their accounting of viewership, because it shows that we have
only 37 on YouTube. But
all right, guys. We'll call it here. Thank you, everybody.
Right.
Sorry we're not doing viewers on stage, but we got to get back to the.
That was 6-hour stream today. Sorry, guys.
Get back to the people.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or